Hello, hello, everyone. Happy New Year. I see people are getting on, and I do appreciate that. So I want to make sure that I am respectful of the 1 o'clock time frame we committed to get started. We are going to get started here in a minute. I have a couple of people already in the studio. We may be switching our order a little bit due to some technical difficulty, but that's okay because we got it all together and we are here. And even when things are perfect, you know how I roll. The show must go on. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Tamara Hartley. I am your how to coach and your take action strategist. This message and motivation segment has just been a brainchild of mine for quite some time. I know a lot of good people in this world, and we are all committed to sharing our stories and uplifting others and just sharing stories that can help you along your way. Sometimes we all need a little bit of motivation and encouragement. And after the year that we've had in 2020, kicking off this 2021, I was just really committed to kicking off the year with some encouragement, some inspiration. And I called on a few of my friends to help me out with that. So I am very excited about our lineup for today. If you cannot stay and hear everyone, I will make this available, make this recording available so that everyone can start this year off the way they need to. But again, I'm very excited to get started. And so, what I am going to do, my sister is actually in the studio and she was slated to come on later today, but due to some other rearrangements we've had to do, I would like to bring her on now. And if you do not know Dr. Stacy NC Grant, today is going to be an awakening for you. Some of you know we do a show every Monday called Dream Do Done. She is a co host of that show. She also is the chief faithpreneur in charge of Faithpreneur Weekend. I know you might have seen I participated in that a couple of years in a row, but she is committed to helping faithpreneurs bring their products and ideas to fruition and actually helping them to make money and have a real business. She is also the creator of Destiny Designers University. I can go on and on. You might have seen her on FraserNet. You might have seen her hosting. She is a super host. She's hosted many events. And again, she is just my sister. And she's also my soror, which I'm always happy to share. But I'm going to bring Dr. Stacy NC Grant on to help kick us off. She's going to share with us a little bit about her story, share with her share with us her message that she has to share with the world and just be herself. And that in itself is going to be motivating and inspiring to you, I'm sure. So I am going to bring Dr. Stacy into the studio.
Good morning, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm sorry, you might not have turned your mic on yet.
Oh, okay, okay.
She was back in the green room, so she probably had herself on mute.
All right, how we doing now?
Can't hear
One
you yet.
minute. Okay. One
While she gets that together again, let me welcome you all to
Hello?
Message and Motivation.
Okay, she can't
Again,
hear
this is
me.
just our way of kicking off
All right, did
2021,
you check your
getting
mic to make
ourselves
sure you're using
empowered. You
black
might have
magic?
had some things on
Mm-hmm.
your plate, some things you've been thinking about, some things you want to do. And sometimes we look
Should
at
I
other people and
do
we look
the
at them and
MacBook?
wonder how they've done something or what made them successful. How did they get started? I wanted to bring
Do
on a
the
few
do
of
the
my
do
friends
the
to share their
USB
stories,
and
to
turn
share
up the
some
second one
nuggets
from the
about how they've
left.
overcome things in their life. All of us
Okay.
have things to overcome. All of us
Second one
have
from the
things we
left.
have to
Okay.
learn and things we need to
All
do.
right.
So I
Just don't
wanted to
say
bring on a
anything.
few of
Don't
my
say
friends today
anything
to
yet.
share some of
Hold
that
on, because
stuff
I'm live.
with you. Okay, so let me see something real quick. So someone in the chat said that they can hear her. So let me double check my studio and make sure that I am. Okay, can you say something, Stacy?
We're gonna try it again because we have live
Okay, I see what
here.
it is.
All right. Okay, so they could even hear Andrew giving instructions, which is a good thing.
That was so funny because we deal with this every Monday, and I should know what the issue was.
You gotta love it. This is live. It's not recorded.
All right, here we go.
Okay. We cooking with
So,
gas.
wait, and it's so funny because every time we go live on Monday, this is one of the issues that we have getting into the studio. Okay. I hear
Alrighty.
a slight echo, but I'm not sure if that's on your end or mine.
Well, let's test it out.
Okay.
This is the pre-show. Everybody's here for the pre-show. It's the pre-show. So that's what happens. All right. So you can hear me now, right, Tamara?
Yes, I can hear you,
Okay.
and I do not hear echo anymore. So let's go ahead and get started. Hello, my sister.
Hello, hello, hello. Happy New Year. Happy New You. Happy everything. Because it's been a year already and it just started. So I'm so glad that you're putting this event together for the new year to really give people the motivation that they need to continue to move forward. Putting it all in perspective, you know, we gear up and we're doing all of this activity and we're working towards getting certain things done before the year ends and the holidays and the start of the new year. And then the new year comes and it's like, whoa, where did everything go? And your messages of motivation today will help people stay the course, will help people continue to move forward in what is a very troubling time. You know, I didn't get to share with you because we didn't speak. At 1 hour past the ball dropping, we lost one of the alumni members of my son's youth football league to gun violence in New York. He was actually the first homicide in 2021, and he would have turned 21 yesterday, January 2nd. So his teammates and the kids, they were so distraught. They put together a tribute for his birthday on the field. The press came, law enforcement was there, the families, friends to support. And in that moment, Tamara, there are no words to tell a mother who was screaming out to God for help and strength to get through losing her baby, that the eve of his birthday every year moving forward will also be a reminder of this tragedy. And I'm mentioning it because life is precious. That was not on her to-do list for New Year's Day. That was not how any of us wanted to start 2021. You know, after 2020, everyone's like, bye 2020, spinning on their heels and running the other direction. Right. And I kept saying, be cautious on how fast you kick out 2020 because we don't know what 2021 has to offer. And today, you are assembling some of the most prolific voices that can share a message of motivation to help us go further even when it's tough. Because yesterday was tough for me, you know, to be there, to embrace our team, to pray, we had an impromptu sort of press conference, and just my gut, it was aching, Tamara. Like, this is our baby, like the community, when these kids grow up playing together from 7 years old, all the team moms, the coaches. What do you say to people to help them keep going when it gets tough? And that's what you've assembled today. That's what, from 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time to, I believe you're ending about 4 or 5 o'clock today.
4, yep.
People are going to be able to tune in live. So if you haven't shared this with someone, share it with someone. So before we even get started, someone needs this message of hope today. Someone needs to be reminded that no matter how difficult it gets, they can still move forward. That they can still do what my talk today is going to be about, right? Action, action, despite the distractions. And some of the distractions that we deal with are tough, like the one that I just mentioned. I mean, that's hard to formulate the words to embrace loss. We've seen it all in 2020, but how do we keep moving forward? As I said to the kids yesterday, we honor the lives of those who transition by how we live now. What are we doing with these words of motivation that we're going to hear? How are we moving forward with the information, the knowledge, the resources, the relationships that we've attained up until this point in our life to make a difference? Tamara didn't have to produce this today. She could have said, you know, I'll wait till the year gets started and move on a little bit. People are still winding down the holiday and doing little to-dos. She didn't have to do it, but she said yes to her divine assignment, right? That this is what she does on a daily basis, starting with her own family, with her community, with her clients, within the state of Ohio, within our beautiful sorority, that we have a particular responsibility to show up and show up with the gifts and talents that God has given us, right? My dear brother Andy Enriquez, who we have worked together with Mr. Les Brown for years, that's his platform that he built, Show Up for Your Life. And there's something to be said about showing up, because you don't know what blessing is waiting for you in the midst of the storm. You don't know how strong you are until you go through some things. So I just wanted to salute you, my sister, before we get started with all of the brilliant minds, many of which are my personal friends. I see one of my mentors supposed to kick it off as well. So I'm just excited to be here and to be a part of sharing a message of motivation. Folks need it now more than ever, Tamara. This is just, we're living in a crazy world. We're not exempt from the things that go on around us, but we have to be grounded in our resolve and our reaction to show up with our brilliance, to do the things that are necessary so that we take action and make a difference.
Thank you so much for that. And I am so sorry about your loss. Actually, I think that is coming from my end. Let me do one more thing. I'm going to change my microphone.
And this is just giving people time. You know, it's the warm-up show. It's the pre-show. So just giving you time to tell folks, to tell a friend, let somebody know that we are live today. You don't know who needs this. You don't know who's sitting on the edge, literally, and just struggling through what life is showing up with. So please share it if you know that somebody could be blessed just by hearing a few words, to remind them of how important they are, to remind them about how important their life is in the collective universe of work that needs to be done, to remind them that their smile, their product, their service, their advocacy, their real estate, their store is a part of making our world a better place. So just press the share button and let folks know that we are here for this event.
Hold on, Stacey. One thing. I'm going to switch my microphone.
Okay, so while you're switching your microphone, I also want to make sure that folks are going to your website and that you are visiting tamarahartley.com to see all of what she does, because I'm sure today she might not mention everything. She might gloss over it because she's so passionate about getting the messages from all of the speakers that will be a part of today's event. But do me a favor and go visit tamarahartley.com. There's a blessing there for you. There's something that you need. There's a problem that she's solving for the things that you are dealing with in this time and in this space. And it'll be an opportunity for you to be very intentional and deliberate about how you show up in 2021, about the action that you take, because it's one thing to be motivated for these couple of hours, but it's a whole nother story to take action on what it is that's necessary for your growth and your development. So definitely be encouraged during this time, and we look forward to just sharing this time and space with you.
Okay, so I went in and switched it out. Do you still hear the echo?
No.
I do.
Okay. I don't hear it.
And I've selected that. Okay, let me see. Does that sound better?
It's going to look what the kids say. It's going to be all right.
It is. It is. We do this every Monday, and I'm like, of all days, I was just in the studio, but now I hear another echo.
So you know what? Just so that you can test it out, you can mute your while I'm speaking and then mute me while you're speaking. That might help to balance it out, because nothing's gonna stop the message, right?
Absolutely.
We have work
but
to
it's
do
definitely
today.
on my end. I can hear it. Hold on one second.
Absolutely. So this is also an example of pushing through, right? Because when these sorts of things happen, it can frustrate you into thinking, oh, forget it. Why am I doing this? The devil is a lie. We're going to have the message of motivation today. And you're going to hear from all of the individuals that are a part of the lineup that will be here participating, sharing, and just saying yes to an opportunity to bless somebody else. 2021 has just begun. We have no idea what's ahead, but we're going to stay the course and we're going to do our work. That's the key.
Absolutely. Okay, is that better? Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started because I don't want to hold up the lineup that we have. I will be working behind the scenes to continue to make sure that what is going on in the studio will be corrected. But I really want to get started with you, Stacey. One, you touched on it a little bit. Action, action, despite distraction. Even as of yesterday, today, you have distractions going on. One of the things we talk about on Dream Do Done, and we talk about this often, is that you have to stay in action. A lot of times it's easy to give up. It's easy to stop. It's easy to have life's pressures come in on us and to make that the reason why we stop doing what we are called to do. We have a saying on Dream Do Done, no matter what, whether it's technical issues, whether it's someone showing up, not showing up on time, or whether, no matter what it is, even things that have happened in our personal lives, we have been on our Dream Do Done show every Monday at 1-ish, despite all of that. And you have just been a motivational force behind what we do every Monday, which is why I wanted to bring you on here today. You have a book to share, you have a story to share, but I think people see you sometimes because you are all over the place and you have been doing this thing. We talked about it the other day. You've been doing this thing since when? Over 30 years, 25 years. You've been in this thing, and sometimes people see you and they see your success and they see you speaking at FraserNet or emceeing some fabulous event, and they think you woke up like this. They think you woke up like this. They think it just happened overnight. And I want you to just share a little bit about your story and talk to us about what it means when you say action, action, despite the distraction.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for that, my sister. It's been a journey, and that's actually volume 2 that's coming out of Action Action Despite the Distractions, 7 Life Lessons on How to Thrive and Live Your Destiny Now. That's volume 1. That's the book that you're referencing. That's what everybody knows. It's become the mantra. People see me in the street and they start hollering, hey, it's the action lady, action, action. I'm like, all right now, Jesus is working. But it's become a battle cry. It's become an opportunity for me to share this message with others because I know what it feels like when you're on the journey. I know the distractions that come up, and I talk about 7 of them in particular that are involved in the evolution of who you're being and becoming in life. And there are 3 that I really wanted to focus on in the time that we had today, right? And to really help you understand why I speak about this, why I wrote about it, why God gave me this work, because as the founder of Destiny Designers University, it's a training and development platform for faithpreneurs, faith-based entrepreneurs, and faith-based professionals. So understanding that there's a different integrity in which we organize, manage, and operate because we've made a decision to publicly and unapologetically state that we believe that God is real, that we know the plans He has for us will be revealed and our gifts will make room for us. But there's a process. Like we quote the scripture and then we think things are gonna voila just happen. There's a process of developing that, and along the way, if you're not rooted and grounded, the distractions will choke your dreams. The distractions will make you stop. The distractions will interrupt your ability to share your brilliance with the marketplace. I can't do what you do. Tamara can't do what you do. I can't do what she does. We're all here with individual skills and talents to be able to share it with the world. So if you declare that you're an entrepreneur, there's already something different about you, right? Because I feel like there's little 2-part cray-cray. For those of us who want to build and grow these amazing enterprises, it takes a certain kind of resilience and fortitude in order to develop it. For me, I wanted to help people get past some of the distractions that got in my way. And the 3 that I'll focus on today, the first one being lack of belief, right? And I want you to write this down. Lack of belief is so critical in understanding how that's showing up. because belief shows up in your behavior. That's something I train about all the time. So I want you to write that down. Belief shows up in your behavior. And if you really say that you believe, if you really say that you know that there's something about your life that's different, that's unique, that you want to share with the world, if your actions don't line up with it, that distraction will keep you paralyzed because you don't even believe in yourself. So if you don't believe in you, how are other people going to believe in you? How are they going to believe the message that you bring? How are they going to believe the product that you create? How are they going to believe in the nonprofit that you start? You have to first believe in yourself. And that lack of belief shows up in different ways, Tamara. For me, it was a lack of action. It was a lack of moving forward, having all these great ideas and then writing them down in the journal and then closing the journal and not executing. So they just pile up and pile up and pile up. Wasn't it Reverend Miles Monroe that said the richest place on the earth is in the graveyard? Because there the dreams and talents, gifts, products die with people who never executed. So that lack of belief has to be conquered. And here's my winning formula that I created for my faithpreneurs. And I want those of you that are listening to write it down. Consistent action plus extended period of time equals maximum results. Consistent action plus extended period of time equals maximum results. Why is that important? If you don't move, your belief will not grow to meet you where you're going. Somebody's going to catch that tomorrow.
Yeah.
If you don't move, right, your belief will not be able to aspire and grow to where you're going. We all have a starting point. But the only way your belief gets solidified is through action, and that consistent action. Because some of us take action and we're like, hey, it's January 3rd. I wrote down my goals. I got the color coordinated pens. I bought the t-shirt and I'm ready. You know, you have Mr. Brown who has mentored all of us. You gotta be hungry. And you're hungry until about January 15th. And then you start forgetting the things that you need to do, and you're not taking consistent action. You know, when we talk about showing receipts, I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. 2 decades of various iterations of growth and development in business that I've been serving, consistent action over an extended period of time. And here's where people get stuck, Tamara. The extended period of time. That part of the formula folk don't like, because it doesn't mean that it's going to happen in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. But you have to believe enough in what was given to you to take the consistent action over an extended period of time. And guess what? You will get maximum results. Guess what? You will be on stages and you will be flying to other countries before the Rona was Roman. You will be doing all of these things, but still using virtual platforms to still be hired to do the same work, because you were able to conquer your lack of belief to take that action over a consistent period of time to get your maximum results. Now, here's the second thing that's tied into that gets people tripped up all the time. And Tamara, we talked about this over and over again. Procrastination.
Yes.
Right? You're paralyzed by this notion of procrastination. You're waiting and waiting. You're waiting for the right amount of money. You're waiting for the right relationship. You're waiting for the right mentor. You're waiting for the right program. You're waiting for the right conference. How long are you going to wait? Because while you're waiting, somebody else is executing. How many of you, tell the truth, shame the devil, you thought of an idea that somebody else is out there making money off of, but you didn't do it, and you were waiting, and you didn't think you had the capacity, and somebody else is making money? I know what happened to me, and some things that I didn't move on. I'm like, dang. But that's what helped me put this information in the book, so that I help you move past that being paralyzed by procrastination and move to the mountaintop of completion. Mark Batterson put it in his book. God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the call. So some of you waiting for some other qualifications from degrees worry about all of that. Just start moving, and move with a spirit of excellence. We don't want to be out here, as they would say, raggedy and all kind of riffraff, but you move with an expectancy that you will get better, that you will grow, that you will refine, and that procrastination doesn't keep you hostage and just choke your dreams and your goals out of you. And you move forward, and there's a certain piece of equipment. I'm not going to pull it up because they're not sponsoring this show. But they have updates on all their new products all the time. And they are a multi-billion-dollar company. And if they can release If they can launch knowing that there's some imperfections and very comfortable sending you a little fix, what are you waiting for in 2021 to launch? I'm just saying. And the
Wait,
third,
and don't we get very comfortable with that fix? We're okay with it. Every time it comes, we download it and we go on about our business. But we're so hard on ourselves for having imperfections.
hello, like this is not the time. Action, action, despite the distraction. Get over the lack of belief. Believe enough to at least attempt. How are you going to know if it's working or not, or if it will work if you never try? If you never put the effort out, if you never make an attempt, you will never know. So it's important for you to really be clear on consistent action. And the third one that I'll share today, because, I could go through all of them, but there are other speakers that are coming. But this one is major. Girl. Toxic people. Drop it in the chat. Drop an amen if you know about toxic people being a distraction. What are toxic people, Dr. Stacy? Toxic people are the ones that tell you, you don't see what's going on with COVID-19. This is not a good time to start a business. I don't know what you're doing. Who told you to write a book? What makes you an authority? Toxic people, why aren't you catching up with the latest show? What do you mean you're on a message of motivation event? What do you mean you're investing in a book or a product? What do you mean you're going to this virtual conference and you're paying X amount of dollars for it? Toxic people sometimes don't even know that they're toxic. Toxic people have been so conditioned into seeing a limited view of their life that they want to share that view with you. But don't go to that party. Say no to that party. Toxic people will drain your energy, will drain your creative juices, will drain you from taking the action that is necessary to get your result. So there's not room for everybody, as I talk about, sitting in your front row. Some people have to be moved to the balcony of your life, right? Now, don't go out here telling people that Dr. Stacy told me to get rid of you. I'm just saying some people need to be loved from a distance, right? They can't be in your front row. The daily conversations, the people that you might talk to and discuss certain things with them about your goals and your plans. You have to be careful. It's just like for mothers, when a baby is growing inside of you, most people will say, don't say anything until you get past the first trimester. Right? Because that's a very delicate time where anything can happen, and folks don't usually want to say and share too much except with a coveted few that they will let know. Same thing with growing your ideas, your goals. Hold that baby tight. Let it grow. Let it continue to be on an upward trajectory. There are no guarantees because things happen no matter when, but at least you know it's being nurtured in a safe environment. That the people that are speaking life into your goals, speaking life into your dreams, speaking life into your products and your services will hold you accountable for the days when you don't want to take action, for the days when you want to tell people to kick rocks with open-toe shoes on, for the days when the bank account might not look the way you want it to look, for the days when you just don't feel like doing anything and you're getting caught up in your feelings. You want those people around you to say, hey, boo, okay, do that little cry for a minute, pout for 2 seconds, but let's get back up and keep moving because you said you had a goal to accomplish. You said you had a book to write. You said you had a business to start. You said you had a way that you wanted to scale what you're doing in 2021. So it's time for action.
Kick rock with open toe shoes.
You got to pray for me. God's not done yet.
So you can see right off why I love this lady and why we have such a good time doing what we do every Monday at 1ish on Dream Do Done. I cannot express enough. If you just heard the nuggets that she dropped just now, Stacey, can you just please share with us a little bit about your personal story and what made you write the book Action, Action Despite Distraction? Because you didn't write it because you wanted to write a book and just put something out there. What is that story behind why you chose to do that and share that with all of us?
So the impetus for the completion of the book came when my grandmother received her angel wings, December 2015. But prior to that, God gave me the title of the book. And why I write what I write is because I had, I think it was at least 2 years, if not more, of pre-orders, right? I kept telling people this book was coming. I was like, I'm writing a book. I got the title. I was all excited. I'm like, bing, right out the gate, because that's just my personality. That's why I need people around me with the bumpers, right? right? Because I'll go all the way down, round the corner, and they're like, "Hey, boo boo, did you get the wheels? Are all the wheels on? Is this on?" Because I've incorporated some of Mr. Brown with "Jump and Grow Your Wings" on the way down. Year one, no book finished. I'm like, okay, well, I'm telling people it's coming. We're still working on it. Some folks had even pre-ordered, child. I had people's money. All right, year two come. All right, we could get this book out. And when my grandmother passed away, I'll never forget, my husband looked at me. He said, I guess this book will finally be finished. And it was something that clicked because the lessons that I share, the foundation of what I do in my platform, is a tribute to my grandmother and the legacy of faith that I stand on. So I made the declaration that yes, we are going to launch this book and we're going to create this space as a memory of my grandmother on the eve of her birthday, August 16, 2016. So here's the lesson for somebody. You have to create fulfillment dates. I teach about this all the time. It's a game changer. It'll be a game changer for you in 2021. I don't deal with deadlines because I don't like things that are dead around me. Fulfillment date gives me life. Fulfillment date is pushing me towards a goal. So writing the book then became a fulfillment date of honoring the legacy of my grandmother, August 16, 2016. But child, it was a journey. Because then I was starting to put together all the lessons, starting to identify the distractions that got in my way. So the same thing with lack of belief, the same thing with toxic people, the same thing with, taking consistent action, organizing, getting ego out of the way, selfishness, the things that I knew got in the way, not only for those that I had been privileged to work with, but things that showed up for me, because you got to be real with yourself. You have to be willing to face the things that you need to fix. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person or you didn't have some measure of good fortune or some measure of winning some goals and ideas, but there's still some things that need to be corrected. And I started writing them down. And Tamara, you know the story, right? So getting through the book, we're all excited. And I have a speaking engagement about the book that next May. So she passed away December 15, 2015. The top of the year, they're starting to promote for this big international conference. I'm panicking. I'm like, oh, but the book is not finished yet. What am I going to do? And I'm like calling some of my coveted friends who sit in my front row. And one just calmed me down real quick. She said, look, if you're not finished with everything and this event is coming up, I mean, they have my name on the billboard, like these big signs. I'm like, oh, this is real. They had the book cover. And I'm like, what am I going to give them? And she said, well, at least give them the first chapter of the book so they can get a taste of what's coming as you're finishing up the details. That's a lesson for somebody else. So some of you are sitting down, watching everybody post their little pictures, watching all these people do all these amazing things. And you're like, oh, that's so awesome. I want to be like them when I grow up. Grow up now. Do something. Just start, right? And then you get better. So we moved on. We continued. We get down to the final stretch, where it's time to get into production mode, where it's time for the layout and the printing of the book to be ready for all the pre-orders that we received to do this event in the middle of Manhattan at the Madison Square Garden Tavern. I mean, just exciting, just the way we were able to negotiate having everyone come. And about 2 weeks before, when we're in the final stretch, I'm up late working, and I'm working hard, like, okay, I got it. Here are the distraction alerts. These are the extra footnotes that I'm going to put in, and I'm doing all of this work. And I said, okay, let me close down because I'm tired. I walk upstairs, and then something said, oh, you need to change one more thing. And I came back down, opened up the computer again, made an edit, and I'm like, okay, let me close it. And I went to click on something on the manuscript, and I'm like clicking. I'm like, wait, what happened? Where's the book? So I'm like, okay. It's a computer. There's automatic backup. It has to be here. So I'm clicking, nothing. All I see is like the skeleton that was in the computer when we first were mapping out the contents of the book. And I'm saying, okay, I'm tired. It's almost 2:00 in the morning. This just has to be a mistake. So I'm like clicking. And then the panic starts to rise because I'm not seeing anything come up. I'm not seeing any of the last changes. I'm not seeing all this content. What happened? So at this point, I'm hyperventilating. I'm walking up the stairs and then running up the stairs. to get to my husband, who was knocked out sleeping. And I'm like, honey, get up. So he thought somebody died. He was like, what's wrong with you? Calm down, calm down. What's going on? I said, he said, the what? I was like, the book. He's like, what about the book? Like, aren't you done? Like, isn't it getting ready to go to production? I'm like, it's gone. And he looked at me, half rubbing one eye. He's like, what do you mean gone? I'm like, it's gone. So he comes down, he tries to calm me down, and I'm shaking. My hands, Tamara, I'm going like this. I'm like watching him, my leg is twitching, and he's looking. And my husband is a computer expert. You know, that's what his career is. He's an IT specialist. So everything is rigged in our house. And I'm like, oh, he has to find a backup. It has to be here, it has to be somewhere. Well, he looked and looked, he turned around, he said, babe, it's gone. He said, what do you do? Like, the file doesn't even exist. There's no backup. I can't even retrieve it. What's happening? I'm like, what do you mean you can't retrieve it? Like, all the work that was done, we're 2 weeks away from people showing up to this event to get the book that they purchased, all of the promotion we were doing, the social media campaign, everybody and their mama knew about this book. And you telling me my book gone? I'm like, oh, no. I couldn't even cry. Like, I was so choked up, Tamara. It was like Denzel in Glory. It was just like one tear just hanging right here. One tear that went. It was just, because I couldn't even get the tears out. It was just too unbelievable. And my husband tried to console me. I don't even know how I fell asleep, because I think the tears and the unbelief that this was happening. And when I woke up in the morning, I said, okay, was that a nightmare? Did that really happen? And I said, well, Lord, you gave it to me once. You're going to have to give it to me again, because clearly this is not about me, but the words, the content, the information that you want me to share to help our faithpreneurs. And that is how I was able to start retyping. I had to travel. I'm on the plane. Usually when I get on a plane, I go straight to sleep. I'm on the plane, type it, and just go. And I'm like, Lord, give it back to me. And in those 2 weeks, we not only reconstructed the book, we got down to the final stretch. We're like, okay, well, I got as much back as I can remember. Whatever God gave me, here it is. But the book wasn't laid out. Tamara, you know about layouts. And I'm like, okay, what we gonna do? I'm sending emails looking for a miracle. Are you my angel? Like, legitimately, that's the subject line. Because everybody's like, girl, that takes like a week minimum on a rush order for anybody to do that. And I'm like, okay, Lord, what we doing? Because how is this happening? People are showing up on Tuesday for this book. The weekend before, layout wasn't complete. She calls me back, a referral, the Monday morning, the day before. I want everyone to catch this testimony, right? Because God specializes in the impossible. And Luke 1:37 says, for nothing shall be impossible with God. That's why I speak to faithpreneurs. I'm not for everybody. Everybody's not going to hear my story and hear my message and resonate with it. And that's okay, because you're not a part of my assignment. You're part of somebody else's assignment. We all have our part to play in helping people move forward. But for my faithpreneurs, lean in on this one. We are less than 72 hours away from the event. Monday morning, I finally get this young lady. She was like, I got your message over the weekend, but we were on holiday because she's out of the country. I was like, oh, that's nice. Welcome back. So here's my situation. So I explained, and she said, when do you need this? Next week? I'm like, no, today. She said, excuse me? I explained the situation. She was like, wow. She's like, I don't know if I can do anything. Let me at least take a look at what you're talking about and give you a realistic opinion. As soon as she said that, I saw the hand of God. I'm like, at least she's willing to look at it. And she started working, and she said, you know what? I just wrapped up a project. If I really focus on this all day, and she gave me her price, and she said, I think I can turn this around. Meanwhile, the printer is calling, saying, is it your book launch tomorrow? We don't have a manuscript in house. How are you getting this back? And I'm like, well, what had happened was, I'm like, Lord, I'm in church singing and praying. You know, sometimes for the real church folk, you know, you praying, but your stomach is tied up. You're like, Lord, help my unbelief. Woo, Jesus, help me through this here. How is this going to happen? Because this seems completely impossible. My mother was like, you just keep going. God gave this to you, it's going to get done. People are like, well, maybe you should reschedule because folks will be a little upset if they show up and the book is not there and they've already paid for it. We don't want you to be embarrassed. We don't want this to be a tarnish on your brand and your reputation. And I'm like, I'm going to keep moving forward. I did not know how, Tamara, this was going to work out. I didn't know if the woman was going to finish the layout. I didn't know how we were going to get the first 200 printed for this event on that Tuesday night. I will never forget it. She finished it. We're still trying to make edits. I emailed him at like 3 a.m. And this is why relationships are important. Something else that I also talk about and train on. He shut down his entire printing business and he does work for the New York City area, the court system, everything. He shut down his business in order to print the first run of books, 200. And he finished maybe 4 o'clock. The event was at 7.
Wow.
Four, maybe even 5 because he was at closing. My mother and sister, who had planned to just take the railroad into the city, for those who are familiar with New York City, driving in Manhattan, getting parking, it can be aggravating. So they're like, oh, we'll bring the kids, we'll come down, we'll be there. I had to call them. They were about to board the train. And I'm like, where are you? Where are you? He just called, the books are finished. They had to jump back in the car, reroute from Long Island, drive to Brooklyn to my printer so that they could go pick up the books. My sister called me screaming and crying as she pulled the book out of the box. She was like, sis, you did it. You did it. And I'm crying on the other end in the city, step and repeat up, balloons up, people are arriving. We had no book yet. But I trusted God that this was not about me. When your assignment is bigger than you, God will move mountains. When he is doing the work, the impossible becomes possible. When you take action, that's how you tell God you believe. That's how you're a true faithpreneur, because you're exercising your faith. You're not waiting for it to all add up and look perfect and be, like this one little neat package in a bow. That's not all the time how things happen. I had to trust and believe. Remember that lack of belief that I talked about? I had to believe that what I was given was not about me, but the people it was going to transform and help. I had to not hold on to these thoughts of procrastination any longer. I had almost 2.5, maybe even 3 years of waiting to produce this book. But when I finally wrote and said, we're going to do this, and created a fulfillment date, Providence started moving. Action started taking place, and I was able to get to the finish line. And the toxic people, I learned the hard way. You can't share your dreams with everybody, because some people will try to sabotage your goals and your dreams.
You know what? One of the things that just struck me, you tell people all the time, oh, you got to have faith. And sometimes that seems like, but how? How do you have faith? How do you wait 2 hours before an event to get a book? Like, how do you keep going? Because it's easy to give up at that point.
Absolutely. It was the action. I kept moving, right? I kept moving in the midst of the adversity. I kept moving in the midst of the challenge. It's literally action, action, despite the distraction. I could have given up. I could have stayed curled up in a ball when we lost the whole manuscript, right? And didn't start recreating, didn't start writing. I could have quit right there. Like at that point, I could have quit and say, forget it. This is a sign. It's not supposed to happen because all of these, things are coming up against me and I'm going through all of these adversities. So no, I know what I was given. I know what was supposed to be done. And I had to push past that temporary inconvenience. That's what a distraction is. A temporary inconvenience. And I had to push past that temporary inconvenience to keep moving. So I kept moving. Even though everybody was like, how are you going to get a layout? I kept searching. I was on the internet trying to pull down how to do a layout. I was like, well, it's about to be one of those Home Depot moments. We're going to figure this out myself. But I was doing and taking action. I kept calling and reaching out. One person called back. It only took one. But if I didn't keep moving, if I didn't keep reaching out, there would have been lesser of a pool for the option of somebody to actually call back. Does that make sense? Because sometimes we only do one thing. We only take one action and we think, woo, we're putting all our eggs in that basket. You have to keep moving. And that's how you're showing that your faith is built on a stronger foundation, that you don't have to see it to believe it, that you're moving according to the speed of purpose for your life. So if I didn't keep taking action, I wouldn't have gotten my hair finished. We were in the venue the night before the event. My cousin, Lord God bless her, Larissa Ingrid Hair, right? She's a celebrity hairstylist and artist. She was down trying to fix my hair while we're talking to the people about the setup and trying to edit changes that they're catching in the book before it goes to the printer. I kept moving. I kept taking action. That morning, the printer was like, look, I got the file, but you're going to have to come here to actually eyeball this, because with the speed in which we're doing it, I'm sure there might be one or two errors, but we really need to get your okay, because this is a 200 run. We can't make any mistakes. I'm like, now? Like, I'm supposed to be going to pick up this. And I had to drive to go handle that and keep moving. I kept taking action. My stomach, I don't think I ate until that night, because nothing could stay down. Like, it was just like, woo, Jesus, this is certainly a lesson here. How to hold on and how to unblind your faith. Because a lot of us like, oh, we walk by faith and not by sight, but we're not really walking. We're talking, but we're not walking by faith. And when you walk by faith, you keep moving. And when you keep moving, it's showing God that you believe and trust that He's going to work it out. No matter what it looks like, no matter how long it takes, no matter what other people are saying, whose report are you going to believe? And I chose to believe God's report. That's why I kept moving. So that's the answer, Tamara. It's action. If you don't keep moving, if you don't take action, you'll never get over those feelings of anxiety. You'll never get over the what ifs. You'll never get to the other side. But because I kept moving, the makeup artist was doing my face and there was no book in the building. They literally walked in with the books, running in, my husband and sons going upstairs, grabbing boxes of books, and the event had already started. People had already arrived. Step and Repeat was up, balloons everywhere. And nobody in the room knew the story yet. So they're all thinking, oh, books must be behind the stage. Books must be some. There wasn't no book in the place. They came in with the book because I was supposed to sign the books before they got there, because they pre-ordered for the signatures, and there was no book. And I told that story and that testimony. We had a packed house, oversold. I could feel my grandmother in that room that evening. I'm like, thank you, Lord. If this is how you let your name get the glory, I give you thanks, because it wasn't about me, but what was being done through me. And I'm grateful that I've created a platform where I don't have to dilute my message. I don't have to talk about the universe and the Jesus. You believe, then we down. You don't, no judgment. But I just want you to know that when I speak, when I train, when I talk to my faithpreneurs, it's unapologetically on a foundation of the faith that I stand in, on, and the legacy of faith that I'm able to celebrate with faithpreneurs. And Destiny Designers University is that training and development platform for faithpreneurs. Honoring my grandmother every year. We went from the book 2016, 2017, she would have been 100. We had a legacy dinner for her in heaven. 2018, we launched the first 3-day Faithpreneur Weekend experience at the Madison Square Garden New York Marriott Marquis, where the ball drops every year. And the next year we went to the TWA Hotel, first landmark hotel out in Queens, New York. And this year, well, 2020, we had our first virtual incredible Faithpreneur Weekend experience. And I am so excited about what 2021 will bring. But I wouldn't be able to share that with you if I didn't take action, if I didn't start, and if I didn't commit to keep moving forward. So what started as a dream, what started as, oh wow, God gave me that book title. Because people say, where did you get the book title from? It flew out of my mouth. Talking to my girlfriend Lucinda at an event years ago, she was like, girl, how you doing? I said, child, I'm just taking action despite the distraction. And she was like, oh, and I said, oh, that was a good one. Because I was wondering what the name of the book was going to be that I was building. God gives me things in pieces. That's just how me and Big G get down, right? He'll give me one piece and then he'll learn a little bit and then he goes, here's another one. I didn't know how powerful these words would become. That would be the mantra and the battle cry for faithpreneurs. Action despite the distraction. I didn't know that saying that I would write the book, I would go through what I went through to get it produced. Action despite the distraction. I didn't know how I would be able to manage that emptiness when you lose someone that you love. How do you honor and fill that space? Action despite the distraction. I didn't know what challenges I would have with creating budgets, finding sponsors, getting registrants for a 3-day event right out the gate. Action despite the distraction. Everything that I've done, I have shared, and I have trained by example. I don't pontificate. I execute, right? So it's about how do you take that action? How do you, in 2021, create some measurable benchmarks for the things that you want to do when you listen to the messages of motivation today? Here with Tamara Hartley, it's not just to inspire you for you to run around the room, throw your shoe, and be like, oh, that was so amazing. What action are you going to take as a result of the words that you hear? I live it. I breathe it. I speak it. If you ever hear me anywhere on this planet, you will always hear the rhythm of the words. Action, action, despite the distraction. It's time for you to move. It's time for you to get started. It's time for you to get past all of the distractions from toxic people, lack of belief, procrastination, disorganization, fear. It's time for you to move. It's now or never. Your dreams can't wait. Uh-oh, Tamara. I don't know if it's me, but I can't hear you. So I know that I see the lips moving there, Tamara, but on my end, and you gotta love it. You're gonna keep taking action despite the distraction, right? Because these messages of motivation are going to be able to reach the masses today. And the good news is that you'll have access to the replays. You'll be able to connect with all of us who are here to support our sister, who believe in the work that she's doing. When I think about those on the lineup, from Les Brown to Serena Brown Travis to Dr. Carter G. Womack, these are people that I love and just admire how they are showing up in the world, how they're taking action, the things that they're going to do. So,
Can you hear me now?
yes, I can.
So, anywho, I was back here trying to take out that echo, but it doesn't look like it's going to leave, so I'm done with it. But I was saying, if you didn't know before, you know now why this is the Chief Faithpreneur. My sister, she is so real and open and honest, and we love that about her. But she brings energy. She brings energy to everything that she does, everything that we do. And it's easy to see her and say, well, that's you, Stacy. That's your book. That's how it happened for you. It can't happen for me that way. And the thing is, that's where that belief comes in. If you see it happen for someone else and you have exposure to that, you know that it can happen for you. So often we're going into people are going into 2021 upset with themselves because they didn't do what they wanted to do in 2020. So already that belief is a little low. They're mad at themselves. They don't see how it's going to happen. It's in here, it's bubbling in the belly, but they don't know how to take the action. And that's why I wanted the action, despite distraction queen to kind of set that up because it's not just Stacy, it's not just Tamara. It can happen for you, but you have to take the action. You have to have the belief. But people don't understand the connection that taking action helps develop the belief. It helps you
Absolutely.
practice. That practice gives you more confidence so you can do those things. You can make those mistakes. You can put that book out there. And not that you don't want to put out something excellent, but you can put it out there and perfect it. We just came out with a book. I don't know if you have it. I have one. We just came out with the
Yeah.
journal on our show, Dream Do Done. And all of us are kind of perfectionists. And we said it and we had dreams about it and we started working on it, but we were kind of hesitant about putting it out. And then, of course, yours truly was like, well, we should do this leather bound, gold foiled. And that almost stopped our progress from putting it out and waiting until it was this grandiose idea. But the thing is, as it is effective. It is effective and does what we are trying to do and help other people do with this journal. And we put it out there. This is it.
We got it done. We took action. And I said, look, we can always go back and we can have another version. We can have something else that we add to it that creates value. But at the end of the day, people need this. People need this roadmap to help them go from process to progress. People really need to see that it's not overnight. I get really annoyed and frustrated, especially with some of the young people, because of what they've seen. They think this is microwave success. Like everybody's an overnight YouTube star because they have X amount of followers on Instagram or TikTok, that, they're amazing. Not that they're not amazing. Everyone has to start from somewhere. There's no overnight success. You have to build some traction, because if you don't, you can have what appears to be, oh my gosh, they blowing up, they're doing, but it's not built on a firm foundation. If it's built on sand, we know what's going to happen, right? So it's important for us to be able to be clear about how we're moving forward. So as I wrap up my part, I know that you are looking at the schedule and getting folks ready for the next round, because we're about where we need to be here for today. The second life lesson that I share in the book, and I'll just give you an opportunity to get the first chapter for free. We kept that going even after we first launched the book. So if you go to actionbook.com, and if you're in the chat and you want to write that down, actionbook.com, you can get the first chapter, which is Faith is an Action Word. But I want to share this with you as we wrap up and as we close for my portion of today. You're going to be listening to a lot of incredible individuals who have a message to share with you. What I want you to be clear about is my life lesson number 2. It's not about being perfect. It's about getting started so you have something to perfect. And I'll say that again. It's not about being perfect. It's about getting started so you have something to perfect. Let's not wait any longer. Our world needs your brilliance. Our world needs your kindness. Our world needs your love. Our world needs your motivation. Our world needs however you have been predestined and ordained to show up in this world. Our world needs you to act now. There's a lot of healing that needs to take place after the most traumatic year we have all experienced in history of 2020. We don't know what 2021 has in store, but what I can say to you, you can't afford not to take action. You can't afford to let distractions get in your way. You can't afford not to be here and be a part of today. You can't afford not to share this with someone who needs to be reminded of their greatness. You can't afford not to be great. Action, action, despite the distraction. I don't care what happens. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care how much money you think you need. I don't care about the relationships you think you need to have. I don't care about how glossy your book cover is. Action, action, despite the distraction. If negative and toxic people start coming to try to choke your dreams, kick them to the balcony. Keep moving forward with the right people in your front row, and we'll be here to celebrate your victory when this time rolls around, the next turn around the sun. It's Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant. It's been a pleasure. I love you, Tamara. Thank you so much
I
for
love
having me,
you too.
sis.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing with us. I love you. I will see you tomorrow on Dream Do Done. For those of you that love our energy together, make sure you check out Dream Do Done every Monday at 1ish as well. I love you.
Mwah. Love you more.
Oh, wow. So I am so sure that you got some stuff from my girls, Dr. Stacy NC Grant. Now you know why I associate with her, why she is someone that is definitely part of my front row and part of my accountability partners, that helps to keep me grounded, keeps me motivated, and really holds me accountable. So I am sure that you have enjoyed her. And we have a treat coming up next. I keep mentioning this show called Dream Do Done that we do every Monday at 1ish. It's our accountability live show. And this next person is also a part of that show. And I am so excited to have her join us as well. So while I get her into the studio, just give me a couple of seconds and we will keep this motivation train moving. Hello, my sister.
Hey now, how are you? Can you see me?
I can see you, and I'm about to pour you in. I have
Okay.
your beautiful photo up so people can see you and your book. So I am adding you right now.
All right, perfect.
Can you bring your camera down a little bit so we can
Bring it
see her
down. Okay.
beautiful face?
My bad. I thought my forehead and eyebrows would do the trick. I'm sorry.
So, ladies and gentlemen that are joining us now, again, welcome to Message and Motivation. Despite any of the challenge that we have experienced with the microphone, we do this every week. So, for us to have any IT challenges, technology challenges, we're going to tell those challenges to kick rocks with open toe
Right.
shoes. That's what my sister said. I'm never going to forget that. But I am so excited about this next guest that I have to share with you. Not only is she my sister, she is Serena Brown Travis. Many of you know she is the biological daughter of Les Brown, and you can tell by the look. Look at the background, look at her. You know, I'm the adopted love child. And in Les Brown adopting me, he exposed me to his family, and I attached to Serena, and we are never, ever, ever going to part. She is my sister from another mother, and it's just been a joy having her as part of my life and just what she brings to the table. She is, and the reason I wanted to bring her to the show, you know, sometimes when you are the child of a celebrity, people have expectations about you, your life. They want to tell you who you are and what you should be based upon being a part of a famous family. So she's a part of that first family of motivation. And her story is so unique that I wanted her to share with you today. So without further ado, this is my sister, Serena Brown Travis. Many of you in Columbus knows that she's also an entrepreneur. We know her as the pulpit chick because she's a minister. She does preach, and that she does very well. I had the joy of attending her initial sermon, hearing her beautiful voice sing and preach. But she's also a restaurant owner. Many of you in Columbus, you all know about the Good Kitchen. Well, this is the co-owner of the Good Kitchen. She owns it with her husband Will. There used to be the ugly black truck and turned it into a restaurant here in the community, but not just a restaurant. Serena has a passion and a heart for helping others, and she does it through her restaurant. So during the COVID 2020, her restaurant was open, serving meals to students, to seniors, to people who did not have food. Her establishment was able to stay open while a lot of restaurants closed, but she used that platform to not only share her motivation, but her kindness and her spirit. So I wanted to bring her on because she has a brand new book called Positive Words Only. And I want to chat about what that means. A lot of times when we go into, you know, when we're going into 21, there are people who have been beaten down, whether it's through words, whether it's physical, but a lot of times we have this emotional baggage and bondage that we're in. And it keeps us from being who we are. It keeps us from living our dreams. I'm always talking about living your dreams, but a lot of things keep us and hold us back and make us feel like we can't live our dreams. So I could go on and on about my sister because I get passionate about it because I know her story, I know the book, but I want her to share with you now and share her story with us. So Serena, if you just don't mind just sharing a little bit about yourself and talk to us about Positive Words Only and why you created that book.
All right. Well, first of all, I need to thank you for having me on this show. Thank you for using your gifts and talents to bring some of the most dynamic minds and speakers together on a Sunday. Stacy NC Grant was absolutely fabulous. I mean, I'm all filled up. And then she said, well, make sure you're not throwing those shoe at the computer, but you're taking action. So I'm like, oh my God, I threw a shoe and now I'm next. What am I going to do? So I appreciate you. And what people don't know about you, you were very kind in your words in terms of introducing me. But the one thing you didn't mention is that when you met me, yes, I'm the daughter of Les Brown. I think you and I even joked around like, girl, you do look a little bit like my family now. But the part that you did not tell, I'm perfectly open sharing this, that you and Stacy and a few other people at that time in my life, you all were responsible for getting me beyond my hurt, for getting me beyond my comfort zone, for, trying to help me see the best of myself. And so I just want to make sure that I publicly thank you for not just being a sister, not just being a friend, but being a dynamic coach. And Stacy NC Grant had already told you earlier, make sure you go to tamarahartley.com. And I know you did not ask me to do that, but when you're grateful, that, oh, I feel myself choking up. Let me pull it back. But when you're so grateful that someone saw something in you that you couldn't see. And I mean, you were nagging me to see more about in me than I saw in myself. So I do want to let you know that how much I appreciate you and all of your listeners. She's a bad coach. Now you may want to fight her. you may get mad at her, but she is absolutely going to bring the best out of you. And so I appreciate you and who you are in my life. So I appreciate the question. You asked me about positive words only. You mentioned my father being Les Brown, the world legendary motivational speaker. I know him as the guy with the tickly beard, the crazy laugh, and the stinky feet. I laugh at him all the time for those things. And so the book Positive Words Only, the truth of the matter is, I realized that when I was stuck in my life and when I could not move, when I could not see anything beyond my current circumstances, when I realized I didn't really have any goals or dreams for myself, I was okay with being the second person or the third person in the room. I was okay with being overlooked. In fact, I'm sure a lot of people would say, well, I just like being in the back of the room. That was me. That was my story. That was the story that I made okay for myself. And so any talents, any ambitions that I did have, I went ahead and put those to the side because they were not important. The guy was Les Brown. People want to see Les Brown. Within 2 seconds, how's your daddy? So I didn't have anything that I wanted to bring to the surface. And so when Tamara did come into my life as my sister, we did find out that she ain't my sister for real, like, by blood. But I must say, we do kind of favor. It's not far off. But when Tamara did come into my life and she was, saying, I can see these things for you in the future. And how come you're not doing it? How come you're not doing it? It's because I could not see it, number one. And number two, I believed, as my father would say, I believed other people's opinion of myself, and it became my reality. One of the quotes that my father is well known for is, don't let someone else's opinion of you become your reality. Well, unfortunately, we know that, family curses and things, family dynamics, sometimes that stuff, no matter who your father is, the things that they preach, what they say, it still trickles down. So I had to do the work myself to figure out, well, what is wrong with me? There wasn't, anything major. There wasn't an accident. I'm thankful. I have both of my parents. I didn't grow up in a house with an empty refrigerator. And I had to unpeel all of those layers, as uncomfortable as they were. And I realized that the reason why I was stuck in life is because I had and believed the negative words spoken over me. And I could not move past them. Once I realized that, I was ashamed. How this Serena Brown Travis, the daughter of the legendary motivational speaker who grew up around nothing but positivity, who grew up being in the boardrooms of some of the most major mind-shaping people of our lifetime. How did I grow up around that? And it went right over my head. It did not apply to me. It was just a part of what I did, a part of my occupation. In fact, I felt like a fraud because I would also travel with my father and help facilitate trainings. But all I did, Tamara, was read a book. I took the best parts out of the book, took a quote out of the book, articulated it, had people clap, had people cry, but never made it a part of who I was, never made it a part of my story. And I felt like a fraud. So once I got all that figured out, then that's when we got to the idea of the book, Positive Words Only. As much as you would like to succeed and, go after your goals and dreams, if you don't get over some of the emotional turmoil that has held you down, and it held me down like a weight. If you don't get over those things, you could say what you want, but if you're emotionally bankrupt, it will still show up somehow, some way. And I could not move without addressing the things that were emotionally and spiritually bankrupting me. So I am good now. I thank Tamara and Stacy and all the other people who have been in my life to pull me out of it. But I'm good now. I'm getting there. Every now and again, I need a tune-up, but that is where the book came from. And I'm so grateful again for you to stay on me, to be a good coach, a good friend, a good and to help me move beyond where I was.
And this is such an important story for so many people. Again, people have expectations of you, and sometimes you don't live up to those expectations and you feel like it's something you're doing wrong.
Right.
Serena had to do, like she said, she had to do her own work. She had to do her own work. And so many of us have to do our own work. And that's why I kind of love this story so much. This book is available. It's on Amazon.com. I know it's on your website. I shared
It's on the
her.
website. Yes, I had a few edits. As we know, this book thing is no joke. It will be back up very soon, and I know that Tamara Hartley will make sure it's back up very soon.
But we were pushing her to share this story because it's not always easy to share that particular story. And this message and motivation, everything that I do is really all about sharing that story, being transparent, sharing what you have going on because someone else has that going on as well. There are so many people who are taking themselves out of this world because they feel like they're the only ones going through something. Imagine the daughter of a motivational speaker who doesn't feel very motivating herself. That's major. And many of us, it might not be that exact situation, but we can say those same things. Your family is known for this, but yet it didn't trickle on onto you. And the truth of the matter is, so many of us have that keeps us from being who we are. And that's why I wanted Serena to share this story and to share her book and to get this book into the world and share that message, because somebody needs to hear that. Somebody needs to know that you have the power to work on yourself and come from under family curses or whatever it is that is holding you back from being who you are. You hear it in her voice. Serena is funny. She's hilarious. If you watch Dream Do Done at every Monday at 1-ish, and we say 1-ish because that is our official time. If you don't know what 1-ish is, come check it out. I think we have coined that as well, that 1-ish. But that is her testimony and that is her story. If you share that story, if something is holding you back, you're under something and you don't know how to get from under it, think about it. Her voice was to write a book. It might be some other way that you can come from under that. Can you just tell us really quick how what it did for you after you published this book and put it out there, even though you were not really trying to rush it and you had others on the sidelines, Stacy and I, who were really seeing what you did not see. We always talk about you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. All of our Les Brown quotes that we all quote and share. But kind of tell us what it did for you after you published this book.
Well, I realized that I had a life. I realized, to be quite honest, I realized that I had a purpose. I equally had a purpose. I equally had something to share with the rest of the world. As I did share the story on a micro level, and with just person to person, I saw them well up with tears and say, "Oh my goodness, I didn't realize what was holding me back." And so, now that I think about it, yeah, Uncle Joe used to call me fat. Aunt Etna used to tell me I would never be anything. Those are things that sometimes, unfortunately, we show up to family situation, friend situations. Oh, here comes big head. It happens so quickly. We end up making ourselves a laughing stock as a result of it. And we never realize the emotional damage done as a result of it. So for me, it helped me to realize that I am in control of my own life, that all of the insults that were spoken to me, I mean, they were just that, just insults. And then, Tamara, I got to a point where under no circumstances, as the young people say, you can't come at me like that no more. I had to switch that thing up. Well, aren't you being sensitive? Absolutely not. I'm not being sensitive. It took so long to get over myself, over all of those negative thoughts and feelings. And so I realized, I know it's going to sound simple and so juvenile, especially coming from the daughter of Les Brown, but I realized I am special. I am someone. And even though, as embarrassing as it is to have been in a space of depression and not seeing the best of myself, that no matter what, my story is still perfect. And so I believe that I was, as we are all created, as perfect images from God. And so now I realize nothing about my story will be wasted. I realize that everything I was trying to bury, God is using to help me minister to the rest of the world. And so I just found myself. I found my voice. You can still hear it in my voice. I still shake a little bit when I talk about it. But at any rate, I'm just grateful to be used as a vessel now to help propel the message of using positive words and what it means for your life as well as for your business.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you for sharing this. We really have to do a segment on positive words only and really delve into that because I really think it's such a big deal. And you said something, someone says, look at that old big head girl, or look at him. He ain't never gonna be nothing. Why is he doing that? He's not.
Right.
And sometimes we don't know that we're internalizing these messages and that they actually affect us. Some of us look at it as, oh, that was just growing up. We were taught sticks and stones can break the bones, but words will never hurt you. But words indeed hurt. They stick with you. And sometimes they show up and you don't even know what it is.
Right.
I think that sometimes people are held back in life. They're held back with their dreams because they don't realize that negative stuff that was poured into them is affecting them and holding them back. So I appreciate you, my sister, coming and sharing that story, for sharing positive words only with the world. We appreciate you for that. And you said a couple of times, it's embarrassing, it's this. And so many times, because if we have those human emotions, that we do not always share those stories. And that's
Mhm.
what this is about today. I wanted to be able to share some of the stories that other people aren't willing to share, or they don't know that it's something they can share with others. Like I said, people are taking themselves out because they feel alone. And I think that it's our responsibility as we come through things to help others come through things, or let them, give them permission, let them know it's okay to share and come through things. So I appreciate you sharing that story with us today. We definitely will do something deeper with that. I love you and
I
I
love you
appreciate
back.
you.
Thank
And I
you.
will look, I will see you tomorrow at 1ish, and
You will see
hopefully
me tomorrow.
everyone will tune in to us tomorrow. But thank you so much for being here and for being my sister.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And I look forward to all the other speakers you have. I know they're going to be dynamite. Love you so
All
much.
right. Love you too.
Bye bye.
Bye. And again, Serena is co-owner of The Good Kitchen here in Columbus. If you have not been to The Good Kitchen, we say it often. Everything is good at The Good Kitchen. So I appreciate her being on, and we will move on to our next speaker. And so as I bring the speaker into the studio, I'm going to put up. Let me hear from you in the chat. Are you enjoying this, hearing other people's stories? Is this helping you? Is this giving you some encouragement and giving you that feeling that, you know what, if they can do that, I can do it too? Let me see you post something in the chat if you are enjoying hearing from my sisters and some of the things that they're going through. And also just some encouragement for how you can get through to 2021 and also get to taking action in your own life despite the distractions and despite those negative words that have been spoken into your life previously. I'm going to go ahead and put up for the next person that we have. Next up, we have my friend, my brother, and just someone I admire, someone who has taught me. We've had some arguments, but you always have arguments with people who are trying to pour into you and tell you to act right, or to just someone who has more experience than you, who is trying to pour into you as a mentor. This person was a mentor even when I didn't want him to be a mentor, because he was always looking out for me and always making sure that I knew right. Sometimes you have to admit that you don't always know everything and that someone does know more than you, and then they care enough about you to pour into you. This is a person that is not only just a mentor to me, but a mentor to so many, because it's just part of his nature. Dr. Carter D. Womack, welcome to today's show. How are you, my friend?
I am doing wonderful, Tamara. How are you doing?
I am doing pretty good. Let me put your face up so I can see you. Thank you so much for agreeing to be here. Thank you so much for being an unofficial mentor in my life, for helping me along my path in my professional career. Not many people know we worked many years together at Who's Who Publishing. He
That's
is
right.
one of the people who traveled this country with me, celebrating and documenting African American achievement. And really, just we've had the opportunity to meet and interact with some of our country's best and brightest stars, celebrities, political figures, community leaders. And I never took that experience for granted, but that was the stomping ground where I really started delving into what it takes to be successful. And I wanted to bring Dr. Womack back. And it's so funny because the reason why we've always kept in touch, if anything major happened, we were definitely there for one another. And I brought him back because he is a forever mentor. He really lives and breathes pouring into other people. That is just who he is. If you know him, he has probably pulled you aside and poured into you as well. But his company, Leadership at its best, it just really explains exactly who he is and what he does. He has mentored young men, young boys, professionals, and I just really believe in him. I know he has some products and things that are out, a book that's coming out, and just bringing his wealth of knowledge to the table and pouring into others. So, welcome. Thank you for being here. How are
Well,
you?
I'm doing well, my Zeta sister. A shout out to the blue and white families. Yeah, I got my pen on
Well,
wherever
you
it
know, I
is.
rep my colors.
That's right. So it's good to be here, Tamara. I've been watching your first two segments. Great information, great feedback. So thank you for having me on your as a part of this motivational Sunday as we kick off 2021.
Absolutely. And one of the things we have talked, professionally about business ideas, about your new book that's coming out. And we talked about ways you could put things out there and do things. But one of the things that struck me, and I think I shared this with you, I said, you know what, Carter, I never knew that about you. I never knew this. And so I wanted to bring you here today just to share a little bit about your story and to
Okay.
share a little bit about the knowledge that you actually have and where that passion that you have comes from.
Okay. Well, Tamara, I think you learned about this in my first video release announcing the book that I'm doing in collaboration with Rhonda Crowder. And that book is called I Am Responsible for My ... And as a part of that conversation about the book, I shared with the audience in that video some information about Carter Womack, the country boy from Greenville, Alabama, the 10th child of the late Jesse and Matthew Womack. I tell people wherever I go when I speak, I always give reverence and honor to my late mother and father because without them, I would not be here. Grew up in Greenville, Alabama, the last of 10 children, poor, outhouse. Young people, when I say what an outhouse is, they have no idea. And some of the buppies, the bougie black people sometimes, oh, I never knew what an outhouse was. I said, oh yes, you did. You had grandmama from Alabama or Mississippi, so don't be playing that with me. And then they all laugh and admit, oh yeah, Carter, I remember what that was. So I always tell people I grew up poor in Alabama, the 10th child of Jesse and Matthew Womack. I picked cotton. I tell people I picked cotton in the cotton field when I was 8 years old. And it was not picking cotton out of an aspen ball, as I tell people. It was actually Saturday mornings, up early in the morning on a cotton truck, going to the cotton field to pick cotton. I got pictures of me in the cotton field, of me with my younger sister, raggedy and torn and tattered. So Greenville, Alabama, and grew up in Greenville as a poor child from a father who was an entrepreneur, cut hair, owned his own business, was cut down wood, because back in the day, everybody didn't have gas or electric stoves. So he cut down wood. So I worked with him cutting down wood, taking wood to people's homes to cook with and to keep their houses warm. So that was my background. I went to Alabama A&M University, got a degree in chemistry with a strong minor in mathematics. And then my career moved me north to Akron, where I worked for the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company as a chemist. And the chemist in the technical area. They have a product in the history books that I developed that carries my name. It's called Womaki. So there's a chemical compound that was put in tires called Womaki on the Goodyear Tire Rubber records for history. And then I moved around from job to job looking for career opportunities, all with the blessing and understanding that we had, Tamara, as you know, God got things in store for us that we don't know about. I served as a city councilman for 5 years, very involved in the political campaigns of Jesse Jackson when he ran for president in Ohio, got to know people that we know in Columbus, Ray Miller, and all the political folks in Columbus. So that's my background. It ended up in Columbus, Ohio with Value City department stores and DSW shoes. And then, of course, Who's Who Publishing, now Who's Who in Black, celebrating and documenting African American achievement everywhere.
And it's funny because you have a career where you were celebrating some of our corporate brass, people who have done things. The reason why I think it's such a great story that you have, because when you look at some of those old pictures of yourself, did you ever think that you would not only be rubbing elbows with the corporate brass and political figures, but actually being one? You know, sometimes we look at someone and we count people out based upon how they started and where they came
That's
from.
true.
You talked about being poor. I think a story we shared like about the shoes, like, you know, you didn't have no shoes, like you picked cotton. And sometimes we're so far removed from that. We think that was a long time ago.
Yeah,
We know people who were picking cotton. We know
that's right.
people who came through those kind of ranks, and look where you are today. So it's inspiring to see that it's not really where you start, but it's definitely what you can do for yourself and how you can move yourself. You were a chemist, like you just don't know this by looking at a person. And sometimes we judge a book by its cover and we think we know. And I was just so inspired by that and so intrigued by that. But how does it feel knowing that that's where you started and you moved yourself up? How did you do that? Like when there were it seemed to be so many things against you. But then again, that's people looking on the outside. Maybe you were like, look, this is just how it was. I did what I had to do and I matriculated as I was supposed to.
Tamara, I don't know how to. That's a hard one, but it's sometimes it's an easy one to think about. I really never thought about it. I think I thought about it in the premise of I want to make my mother and father proud. So don't get me started because I'll start to tear up. I want to make my mother and father proud. They did not go. My mother and father didn't go to school. Period. Never in a classroom of school. My mother and father were born in 1911 and 1912. They married when they were 14 years old and 15 years old, respectively. My mother was a year older than my father. So they did not go to school. And they started making babies, I think, soon as they got married, okay? So there were 10 of us. Boom, 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 boom. So my thing was I got to do right because I was the second out of 10 that went to college. My sister Lily went to Tuskegee University, now then Tuskegee College or Tuskegee Institute then, and I went to Alabama A&M. So I had the pressure of saying I got to do this for mom and dad. Everything I did, I thought about what can I do for my mother and father to be proud. And I was blessed to have some good people that came into my life along the way that took me under their wings and showed me things that I didn't have no idea that I could accomplish.
Wow.
And I keep in touch with them now.
But maybe that's why you give back so much, because that is what you do. You take people under your wing and give them that knowledge and share with them not only what you've been through, but your knowledge. And anyone that knows you can see that in you because you've been doing it since I've known you. You knew my son since he was, I don't know, he was probably about 6 years old, and now
That's
he's
right.
17 and bigger than the both of us.
Right.
But you've always been the same. It's always been that same concern. How's he doing? Science and math, like, you know, just that concern. He needs to get my program. He needs to do this. You've always been that person. And I see you being that person to almost everyone that you meet.
Well, Tamara, thank you very much. But again, it was a learning process because I had people, if I think about the folks that poured into me when I moved to Akron, Ohio, the one brother that met me at the hotel when I got there was Ken White. I talked to him this week. He's older, retiring. His memory is going, but he calls me. I think about Jesse Williams at Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company, who came to me and talked to me. Bill Miller, who was the only black vice president there. I drafted a letter and he read the letter and he called me in his office. That letter had more red lines and circles around it and told me I had too many I's in this letter. You can't send this letter to no manager. Said I. He said, because they don't give a damn about I, you got to start using we. So those folks who poured into me, like Charles Wright, who was our fraternity 23rd national president, who told me, Carter, you got to get out of them platform shoes and this mammy-made leisure suit that your sister made you that was green. You cannot be out here looking like this. So I learned from folks, and from that, I learned that if we don't give back to our community and our people, nobody else is going to do it. So that's my compassion and commitment for the work I do with the boys that I've worked with all of my life, and I won't stop. People say, when are you going to retire? I said, well, when they close, ain't gonna close no lid because I ain't gonna be in no box. When God calls me home to work and I want to be able to leave a legacy with my business and my books for others to be able to use as a role model, because it's not about me, it's about other people. But if people had told me, Tamara, some of the stuff I had to learn on my own, even though I tell people I'll be laying on the beach somewhere, having a big old house on the beach, because I gave to give to others. So that's what we do.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you. I wanted to bring you on. And again, we will definitely have more conversation together. And I will be happy to, when that book comes out and it's official and you need someone to help you pull together an audience so you can share, you can always count on me for that. I'm
Okay.
excited about the book. When will it be ready for? Is it done now or are you still
Well,
working on it?
well, what we're doing with the book, I am responsible for mine. We're going to be releasing the book in a digital format and 4 mini books. So there are going to be 5 chapters in the book, covering the first series is going to cover everything from developing your personal mission statement, vision statement, defining your purpose in life, honing your attitude and your character are going to be the first topics in the mini series to be reduced. The plan is to have it released during Black History Month.
Oh, okay. Black History Month 2021. So that's in a month or
That's
so.
in a month.
Okay.
I know you
Definitely.
get. I heard your coachable moment. Yes, I have my team already on it. This book must come out during Black History Month, even if it's the last day.
Well, we look forward to that. Any way that I can help you with that, I would love to have more conversations about each one of the books because I mean, I'm not sleeping on all that you actually just unpack for us right there. That's a lot of content. It's definitely needed in this world. People need to be coachable, they need to have mentors, they need to have someone who is willing to pour into them. So I appreciate you for that. And I can't wait for the books to come out. I really can't. I'm excited. They look great here on this slide that I'm sharing. And I'm really just excited that you have finally put some of your knowledge into a way because we've talked about this for many years. I've seen it always be taught
15,
of, yeah,
15
people
at
do this book
most.
to do that. But we
15
come
at
from the
most.
world of publishing. So it was like, okay, you need to put this in a way that not only you can leave a legacy, but you can help more people. You have a larger footprint. I mean, your footprint is already huge. There's not a place we ever went that Carter didn't know someone. But again, you were the national president of the Signal. Were that one or twice? How many times were you president?
I was president of the fraternity for two times. The fraternity structure is that you can run for president for 2 consecutive terms and you're assigned a number. So I was elected the 27th national president, served 2 terms, and then set this 28th got election. I came back and ran again and became the only president in history of the fraternity with 2 numbers. So I'm 27 and 29.
Look at that. And I promise you, you cannot go anywhere with Dr. Carter D. Womack without finding somebody that he knows. I don't care what city we were in, we had resources.
That's right. And the Zetas were right there as we move forward. Tamara, I'm so proud to see what you're doing. I know how hard you worked in every job that you have. And when I turn on the TV and I see Tamara on AEP commercials and giving tips, and she's speaking, and she's raised a phenomenal family and just really out here doing things. And when I learned that she had decided, and my phone started to ring with my sisters of Zeta. Do you know Tamara Hartley? Do you know Tamara? I said, yeah, I know Tamara. She's applying to be a Zeta. I said, well, you got a phenomenal talent and resources, Tamara, and you're doing some great work, and I've been following you, will continue to follow you. And yes, you will be a part of this team to help us promote this. I am responsible for my ... That's book number 1, and we'll be doing book number 2 in 2021 as well.
I am so excited for you. And thank you for those kind words. It does mean a lot coming from you. And when you talk about relationships, relationships are so important. And it's always nice to know that I can count on you, even if we haven't talked in a while. When we talk, it's like we were just talking
That's
yesterday.
right.
And we always catch up. So I appreciate you. I love you. And I'm excited. And I can't wait for the book to officially be out. We're going to hold you. Y'all heard he said Black History Month. So be on the lookout for Dr.
Black
Carter.
History Month. Black History Month. God bless you, Tamara. Much love.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, everybody have a blessed new year.
Dr. Carter D. Womack. Again, just that person who pours into others, doesn't mind sharing. A lot of times, there's some people who won't pour into others. They hold their information close to them. They want you to have as many bumps and bruises as they had. And he's really not that person. And like I said, sometimes you're not, you have to be open and be coachable and teachable. And sometimes you're not always open for that. But he taught me that if someone's taking the time to give you feedback and to invest in you in that way, you need to be open to receive it. So we are moving on to our next person. This person, when I tell you the name is so fitting, the amazing T Street. Many of you in Columbus know her, but you don't know she is a national motivational speaker. She pours into youth around the country, she pours into women around the country. And if you know her energy and the fire that she has in doing what she does, you will just be just a changed person just meeting her. So I want to welcome to the stage Miss T Street. And oh, a part of her brand, the amazing T Street. You got to say that or you're going to get cut. Hello, hello, my friend. How are you? This is my sister friend for sure.
Good afternoon, Tamara. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much for including me in this absolutely fantastic lineup. When I saw the lineup, I'm like, are you sure I'm supposed to be in this lineup? I have been fed today. I'm a big girl, so I like to eat, whether it's metaphorically or whether it's the real thing. I like to eat. And so I am full just from the speakers I've already heard. And the ones who are yet to come in the lineup are inspiring me already just thinking about what they're going to share. But Tamara, everybody has already done your accolades, but I will tell everybody much of what I accomplished in the last 3 years is because of my friend Tamara Hartley, who is the person who pushes you, who will not let you settle, who will not let you be mediocre, who reminds you always that you are called for excellence. And Tamara, I'm so grateful to you and everything that I'm undertaking now and that I have on deck for 2021. I always have you in the back of my head. You're always in my thoughts. I'm like, oh my God, I got to do this. The camera said I got to do this. And so I'm eternally grateful for your friendship, but also for your mentorship. Though I am older than you chronologically, you're never too old to be mentored by anyone, whether they're older or younger. And I'm grateful for your mentorship and for all that you've done to help to relaunch my career.
Well, I appreciate that, but this is clearly this relationship here. You know, sometimes I'm Oprah, she Gail. Sometimes she Oprah, I'm Gail. I carry her bags. I show up. I will escort her to a speaking event, and that's the kind of friendship that we have. As much as she feels like I've coached and mentored her, she has coached and mentored me, and it is definitely a reciprocal relationship and a connection that we have. But I wanted to have her here today. Many of you know her. Many of you have seen her standing on chairs and delivering and doing what she does. We did a Your Sister Friends event some years ago, and just seeing her energy and what she brings, the transparency that she brings. And I love her. And that's why I wanted to bring her here today. She just came out with a new book. And this new book, first of all, I did not design this cover and it is fire. And I don't have a problem telling her that it's fire because she has stepped up her game in a lot of things that she's done. I mean, look at that picture. I mean, I was distracted by the leather dress, all of it. I was just like, T Street is on point and I really love it. But I wanted you to come and share just a little bit of background about this new project that you have and just how significant it is with you sharing this with the world.
So my new book is titled When Love Flows Through Broken Hearts, Love Notes to My Children and Yours. And it actually, I never intended to write this book. That's why I love Jeremiah 29:11. People quote it, but I don't think people live it. 29:11 says, Jeremiah 29:11 says, for I know the plans I have for you, saith the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And what I love is that God's plans are always so much greater than my own. My son and I are both adopted kids, and a lot of people don't know that. We both came through familial adoptions. And folks who don't know, when you deal with adoption, there's a lot of baggage that comes with that. A part of the adopted legacy in the back of your head is, how could someone love me when the people who were supposed to take care of me didn't? Mine came because my mom died. Christopher's came for other reasons. I have two sons, Kenny, And Christopher gets a lot of my shine right now because of this book, but I never want to forget that two of the greatest accomplishments I have is being a parent, something I never wanted to be, and working with young people, something I never wanted to do. That's why you've got to be open to God's plan for your life, and you've got to be willing to pivot when his plans and your plans don't necessarily align. I'd rather be in his will than in my will, he says, because his will for me is perfect. So I wrote this book because right after the pandemic hit, my son was in college. He came home like a lot of college kids, mad, depressed, having the time of his life in his freshman year at an HBCU, caking it. He came home to a mom who has rules and standards and all of that stuff. I know you're grown, but you live in my house. But I was so proud of him because he pushed through. He pushed through. I was so elated. When a lot of kids gave up, he didn't give up or give out. I heard him on his Zooms every day. He had a little ritual he went through every single day. But he got up and he got the job done. I said to him, son, I'm paying for this. Unlike a lot of kids, I'm not letting you take out loans. You don't have all these stories to tell. I'm paying for this. I need you to finish strong. What you do after that is up to you, but I need you to finish strong. And to his credit, he did. He finished with a 3.73 spring semester. We celebrated. But there's always been this draw for him to be back in other places. And I came home in May, and he had written me a note to tell me he was out. He took his Xbox and a few other personals and got ghosted. He was like, I'm turning off my phone. Don't contact me. I don't want no contact. I don't want nobody having expectations of me. Well, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I have expectations of you. Your village has expectations of you, and God has expectations of you. So I was so mad. And parents all the time aren't transparent. Everybody pretends like their kids are all perfect. I can tell you, I work with some of your kids, and I can tell you they're not. They're kids, capable of mistakes. But I believe that when we tell our stories as an act of faith, it's cathartic for us, but more importantly, it's life transformative for other people. And so I decided I was going to write Christopher. I was mad. I got up every day praying for him, but praying in anger. Lord, covering. But I was mad. I was like, after all the sacrifices I made, I didn't even want to do this, blah, 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 blah. I gave up the prime of my life to do this, raising you, blah, blah, blah. But I prayed. And one day in June 21st to be specific, God came to me in my prayer life and said that my prayers were being blocked by my anger and my rage at my son. And he said, your prayers can't get through because you're so mad. You're so mad. I didn't call you for any of that stuff. I called you to love Christopher. That's all I called you to do. So going forward, I want you to stop all your rage and all your anger and all your whatever. I just want you to send him love notes every day. Just send him a love note. Let him know that no matter what he's doing, no matter what he's up against, no matter who comes into his path, that he is loved, that he is truly loved, not fake love, not new love, real love, that he's loved by me, but he's also loved by you. And so that day, I wrote my first love note to my son. I have a hard time keep making habits because I can't do anything for 21 days, as Stephen Covey tells us. But I started writing him these letters every day with no intention of ever writing a book. I had an online card subscription that I've had for about 10 years. I use it maybe twice a year to send birthday cards. But I decided to use that as the vehicle, and I would send him these cards that are prepackaged, but then I would write my own love notes inside the cards. And 3 months in September 21st, I reached out to Christopher and told him, I said, hey, Stephen Covey, you and I always joke about the fact that we don't have to worry about forming habits because we can't do anything for 21 days. Have you noticed that I've written you a letter every day for the last 3 months without fail? I guess you are my habit. You are absolutely my drug of choice. And he responded. He sent me a text. So I knew that the letters were making impact. And so I continued to write those. And then that same day, I was talking to a friend and shared with her. I said, yeah, I've been writing these letters to Christopher. This is the one I wrote to him today. And she said, oh, my God, T, do you know how many parents are really struggling to figure out how to love their kids when their kids are like not on point, not on task, not doing the things they should be doing? How many parents are struggling? You should write a book. I'm like, I already wrote a book. I'm amazing in the street when you like to be amazing too. I already wrote a book. Everybody knows that's not my gift. I don't want to write a book. I'm a speaker. I said, I already wrote a book. She said, nope, you got to write this book to tell the story. And so I prayed about it and decided to write the book and to share 100 of the 150 love notes that I wrote to Christopher between June 21st and November 21st. I chose randomly, kind of chose just a hundred that I would share with people to kind of give them a sense of where my heart is and was for my son, and to give other parents hope. At the end of the day, I'm not a perfect parent, but I have served him, and I've served other people's kids well. And I want parents to know that our kids are not expendable, and that God expects us to stay in the fight and just love them. He didn't call us to judge him. He didn't call us, and all the people who talk about him and all those kinds of things, I leave that up to them and their God. Because at the end of the day, if you didn't show him any love, like me, he could care less if you don't show him any hate. If you show him hate, at the end of the day, God just calls us to love our kids. And so that's what this book is about. And I have to love him through a broken heart, because I would be less than honest if I didn't say every single letter was written through tears. Even the ones that were funny were but they were written through tears. Every day I lament with a broken heart, my son. But every day I still get up and serve other people's kids.
So that is just, I mean, even hearing it, and I know the story, and even hearing it again, one of the things you and I connect on is our parenting. Because, like you said, we are not perfect parents. We look real good on the outside, but we are not perfect parents. There's no blueprint. None of us have a blueprint. And my kids are great, and they are still kids. And so I think that's one of the things we've always connected on, having those real conversations. It's nice to have that parent, another parent that you can confide in and talk about your crazy kids today.
Yep.
Now, my kids they're bringing home 4.0s, they're doing all those kind of academic things, and on the outside you're looking like, oh great. But we've talked about dealing with depression, dealing with some things that kids go through in life. And so you and I have been able to have that connection. So even when you share some of this, I almost was hesitant, because I didn't want it to be like a commercial thing, because that's not what it was. But what I said to you too was, what we're talking about, what you're sharing, can definitely help some other parents. There are plenty parents out here that are going through things, and they're scared to say it, they're scared to share it, but it's out here. All of us go through the ups and downs of parenting. And what you just said just now is that we're called to love them no matter what. When you depend on that parent's love, it can be a tremendous game changer in all that you do. Even when they're out being who they are or doing things a little crazy, knowing that that love is there, I think is something that not everyone gets to experience. And so I appreciate you sharing those stories with me. I appreciate those late night conversations that we have, but I am very proud of you for sharing this with the world, because there are people who need to hear it. And if more people talked about the parenting ups and downs, I think it could really change a lot of things, because some people are suffering in silence.
Mhm.
Some
Yeah,
people are
there.
suffering in silence, and you see people who have teenagers who don't speak to them, who don't share with them, and a lot of that goes on. But some of that can be changed with how the parent actually treats them and grooms them. And it's another thing to parent a child that grows into an adult, knowing
It
when
is.
to, making that separation of parenting a child and an adult. So you and I made that journey together, because both we have a kid and they're friends, but both of them are at the same level in college. They dealt with some of the same things. Both of them are geniuses, and both of them
Yep.
struggle with some of the same things. So we've always had that with each other. And now other people have that with you. And I'm just very, very proud of you for that. I'm going to put the book up here. Please share with everyone where they can get this. And if there's anything else you want to share about it, please do, while I bring up your slide, because I just think this is a conversation. This is a book that everyone must have. I bought a couple because I actually gave one to my own kid and said, yeah, what she said, ditto. But I gave it to my own kid because our kids are very similar and they struggle with some of the same things. And I just said, you know what? This is something I want my child to have. I wrapped it and gave it to her for Christmas. So just share with us where we can get this, and just a little bit more if you want to just close out about this book.
I do. I want to close out. And you can get it at Amazon.com. It's titled When Love Flows Through Broken Hearts. All you got to do is put in the Amazing Tea Street. It comes up. So I'm super excited to share that. But one of the things I'm going to be, as part of my own, I have a podcast called Coffee with Tea. In the coming year, I'm going to be doing a whole segment over the next few months called Tell Your Story as an Act of Faith. And so if any of you are out there wanting, not just about parenting, if you're wanting to come on and tell your story because you think that it will be cathartic for you and life transformative for someone else, come on and tell your story as an act of faith. My information is on the slide. You can reach out to me and let me know that you'd like to be a guest on Coffee with Tea. But as I close today, one of the things I never want to do is leave without telling people that we are all called with purpose. All of us are called with different purposes, not just one purpose, but many purposes have already been invested in us. And a lot of people, I heard someone recently say, well, I can't do some things because I don't have a pedigree. And I said to them, pedigree is no match for purpose coupled with principle and passion used to serve people. Pedigree can't compete with what God has placed in you. And I always close by saying that I'm the amazing T Street, but I can absolutely positively assure you there is nothing amazing in me that's not in each and every one of you. And I charge you to figure out and walk out, because walking is a verb, your own amazing. Tamara, thank you so much for having me today. And I didn't come on to promote my book. I came on to tell parents that you matter. Parents, you matter. There was no blueprint. Whatever you're doing, do your best and leave the rest to God.
I so appreciate you. And I know you didn't come on for the book, but we have such amazing conversations. Make sure I'm a part of whatever you do, because that's how we roll. And I want to make sure you're a part of everything that I do, because that's how we roll. I appreciate you pouring into people, women, children around the world, sharing your story. You have another book that's out there that really tells and delves deeper into your story, who you are as a person. And we all were kids before, and not many of us want to share those experiences. But T Street, that is why she makes such a massive connection. I have the privilege of traveling with her 1 year, and just to see the kids, she's a rock star to them, and she will do whatever. A lot of times we don't want to embarrass ourselves, we don't want to look a certain way. T Street would like go there and do whatever she needs to do. If she needs to jump on chairs, if she needs to come up with a skit, she will do it just to make that connection. But I think one of the reasons she makes such a connection is because she shares who she is. A lot of times as parents, we try to come off perfect, like we never did anything, we never got caught doing anything. But she shares those stories, and that's what I think connects her to children and to other people as well. So as a parent, I want you all to connect with her, connect with what she's saying about being transparent, not being perfect. None of us are perfect, and we don't have to be perfect and try to raise these perfect children. We just really need to love them, and it be a genuine love. So I appreciate you. We could go days just these two right here, TNT. So we will definitely, as you're doing more with your book and talking, having these conversations, I definitely want to be involved and help any way that I can. I love you, and
I
I
love
do
you,
appreciate
Tamara.
you being here.
Thank you always. I appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. So I don't know how I even thought I was going to get through 15 minutes with people. I just didn't want to be here all day, but this is the kind of stuff that I live for and that I do. So it's easy for me to be here all day. But this next person that I am bringing on, many of you may know her as an executive. She actually runs an organization here in Columbus called Perscolis. And the reason why I'm bringing her on here has nothing to do with that. I have watched her over the years just constantly reinvent herself. And she has this amazing talent. Like most of us do, we don't recognize it as a talent. We can, like, someone asks us a question, if it's in our wheelhouse and it's part of our purpose, we just spin it off. We just tell you what to do, boom, 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 boom. And to us, that was nothing. But to everyone else, it's such an amazing talent. This is an amazing talent, an amazing woman. My sister friend, Miss Toni Cunningham. Yes, she has her own business. Like I said, she's an executive with a nonprofit. She also is one of the people responsible for, making you feel. She has Image Anew, what makes you clean out your closet. She came to my house and threw away all my favorite stuff, which was a traumatic experience. I should do another show on that, because, like, on that show, I was hanging on the stuff like, no, I need that. This is important to me. But she helped me let go of some things in my life, not just my clothes. And I wanted her to share today just a little bit of who she is, and just I want you to get to know her and her story and what she brings to the table and what her message is to the world. So, hello, Miss Toni Cunningham, my sister friend. This
Hey,
is
Tamara.
another person that when I get on the phone, we look up like, oh my God, girls, tomorrow I gotta go.
Right, right. We got on the phone yesterday. So, but I want to start off by saying, first of all, Happy New Year, sis.
Thank you.
So
Thank
excited for you. thank you for inviting me on. When I saw the lineup, I'm kind of like T. I was like, am I supposed to be here? But you know what? I have gotten so much. Dr. Stacy was fire. Listen, I'm
Always
ready.
fire.
I'm ready. And Carter and Serena, and of course T. I follow everything that T does. And so I appreciate you having me here. And Tamara, I was thinking, what in the world would I share? Like you said, I have the background of being a nonprofit executive. I've done government. I've had my own business. I worked in corporate, and the constant theme there is building people. So my purpose in life is helping people get to next, whatever that is in their life and careers. And so, that's me, right? That's what I'm doing. Strategist, reboot, you knock down, you get back up again, you start all over again. I think I've started my life over like 4 times now. Literally completely started my life over like 4 times. And so started to look at the strategies around that. What was the constant theme, and how do you share that with others so that they don't think that life is over when something major happens and they can't start again. And then 2020 hit. Let me tell y'all something. It was not about rebooting. It was about this major disruption. And so it's funny because I was working on a talk that I did with a group called Disruption. Now, the pandemic had not hit when I wrote this talk. And I was talking about how we need to take the negative connotation out of the word disruption. So, oh my God, it was disrupted and everything is horrible. And I got to figure out, and I got to pivot, and I got to do all this stuff. But really, that word had been arrested in the negative, when really we had to start thinking about it in the positive. And I had to do that in 2020. So many things happened. The year started off amazing. And, we're high, and we're ready to go at work. I'm ready to go in personal. I think I had about 10 conversations with you about all the stuff I was going to tick her off and do in 2020, new decade, new you. And the pandemic hit. And in the midst of it, I look up and realize that my mom, who was struggling with early Alzheimer's, had progressed. And so as her only child, it was time for me to flip the roles. They say you're a woman once and a girl twice. And so my strong, independent mother who raised me, who showed me the way, who was a model of independence and strength and wisdom and all that, she now needed me to be that for her. And in the meantime, I had to run her life. I had to run my cousin's life, who I'm the guardian of. I had to run an organization. And then I had to try to run my own life. So I'm like, okay, God, okay, you built me for this. I'm built for this. I can do this. And I'm trudging along and I'm trying to make these hard decisions. And Tamara, I go to sleep one night. I think I was on the phone with one of our girlfriends early in the evening, cooking, talking. Then I go to bed, and in the middle of the night, the dog starts barking. I'm like, what in the world? Dog's like, da, 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 da. And I wake up like, Zeke, be quiet. Zeke, be quiet. And I smell smoke. Zeke woke me up to tell me that there was a fire in the house. What? So I go running downstairs in just my underwear, see all this smoke billowing, throw the door open, see the firefighter saying, we didn't think anybody was in there. You got to get out now. And that was October 13th. And that's the last time I slept in my house, Tamara. Yeah. So when you think about disruption, in the meantime, I'm having this conversation about where my mom should be right now. Living alone, needs to transition. I'm like, Lord, all of this happening at once? And then at work, we had to flip our students for the pandemic. Everybody had to go home and work from home. And when you deal with the individuals that we work with, their home life is not always set up for them to learn at home. So you got to help our learners adjust to being at home and trying to figure it all out. And you're trying to help them do better. And I was like, disruption, disruption, disruption. And so 3 things came to me in that, Tamara. What I had to think about was how disruption allows for detour. Mm-hmm. Right? So you go a different way. Think about those orange barrels, and they direct you another way, but you still get to the destination. They allow for deliverance. Let me tell you what that fire did. Delivered me from clutter, delivered me from stuff, delivered me from having to have and be and do. It deliverance, and it allows you to become destiny focused. I have spent time in this temporary dwelling after moving from hotel to hotel. That was an experience in and of itself. I'd never been in a house fire in my life. Then in a temporary dwelling, figuring it all out, like how in the world did I end up here? Right? And what am I supposed to do with this time? Well, what I'm supposed to do is to figure out, especially since I have a pandemic and I don't have to leave the house unless it's absolutely essential, I can spend time with God. I can spend time getting clear about what I'm supposed to be doing and giving to this world. And that's what I spent the time doing. And so what I came out of this with is disruption can lead you to your destiny. We're going to put the positive power back in the word disruption. And I know my sister was like, action, action. I can't remember the rest. Action, action.
Despite the distraction.
Despite the distraction. Distractions and disruptions are totally different, right? So there will be distractions. The distraction is, for me right now is, I'm living in a temporary apartment. I'm blessed, but I'm living in a temporary dwelling. That's a distraction. The disruption was cleared everything out, but I have the ability now when I put it all back in, not to put the same stuff back in, to keep the clutter out, to do it differently. And shame on us if we don't allow this disruption to have us do some things differently. So Tamara, it's just been, I just wanted to come on and talk about my disruption. It's the first time I've talked about it out loud to an audience or to a group of people. And I get a little bit emotional when I think about it. But disruption is divine.
Yeah.
And we need to take it and see it as that and use it as that. And so that's what I wanted to tell people. Disruption can lead you to your destiny.
And one of the things, and I'm just going to be transparent here, one of the reasons that I brought you to the table here today is so that you could share those types of stories. And it's still, when I look at you, you're always reinventing and to me, rebooting. And yet again, you're doing it again. But it happens to all of us in so many different ways. You had a fire, but someone else had some other disruption in their lives. And instead of looking at it as, oh goodness, I'm just going to sit back and do nothing, they need to look at how they can do it differently. And when you and I talk, it comes out of you just so quickly and so easily. I talked to you the day after you had the fire because I just had to check on you. I dropped everything to check on you because I didn't know exactly what had happened. But you were taking it all in stride, and you did have a lot going on, and you still were having meetings, and you still were setting this up. You could not stop. You had to keep going. And that's a message that a lot of people need to hear today. 2020 happened to all of us. The pandemic happened to all of us. This was the first time that we all had to sit down.
Girl,
We
say
all
it.
had to sit down. And then you can ask yourself now, well, what did I do with that time? And even if you didn't do what you thought you should have done with that time, it's not too late. It's 2021. It's a new year, and you have a chance to do things differently. You were disrupted, but like Tony says, you can put new things back in. You can do something different. You can change careers. You could build that business that you wanted to build. And that's why I wanted to bring her on, because she sees this stuff so clearly and she talks about it. But she also doesn't realize that she does it every single day, not only in her business, but in her life. And I think that is what all of us have to recognize. We all do it every day in our life, and we have choices that we can make.
Yes.
You have choices, and
We
you
have
have a chance to make some new and better choices for yourself. Look at
Yeah.
2020 as a way of making that happen for all of us at the same time. And when does that happen? You know how sometimes you really want to stay in, but everybody's out and you don't want to feel like you're missing nothing. So you go out,
Exactly.
but now we all in. So now you can really stay in and be proud of it. Like, good, I'm in. What can I be doing? What can I use this time to do? So I appreciate you just sharing that, being transparent, sharing the difficult decisions you have when you watch your parent go from being independent to dependent on you as an only child. There's a lot on you. And we talk about it all this time that even when you have a lot on you, to take care of yourself, because you have to be in a space. And one of the things that you told me when you said, when I said, okay, well, maybe you should just, move your mom in with you, and or you need to go live with your mom, and while your house caught on fire. And one of the things you were very clear about, you said, you know what, I love her and I have to be the best for her, but I also need that I have to take care of me. I have to replenish myself so that I can continue to take care of her. So being at her house is not the best decision for me, because I have to keep pouring into myself to be there for her. And that's something that a lot of people don't recognize that they need to do. And you were
Yeah.
very clear about that. And we feel guilty about things like that. You know, someone's looking at you like, well, how come you didn't go to your mom's, or how come you this, or even you might have been questioned like, oh my goodness, I'm an only child. Why didn't I do that? But you were
Yes.
very clear about what you needed to take care of yourself so that you can continue to be the best for her. And that's another thing that I wanted to share with this audience, that sometimes we have to make those hard choices.
And our journey is our own. I put out that comparison is the thief of joy, and I almost got robbed because you start like, oh my goodness, maybe I should be doing this or I should be doing that, or I'm looking at other people's journey and thinking mine is not enough, and it is. My journey is mine, but what I always knew and was very clear from the beginning was I didn't want to be my mother's nurse. I wanted to be her daughter.
Yeah.
Whatever time I have left with her, I don't want to spend it, because my mother set herself up very well. And that's something I too could learn from her, is that she never lived above her means. She took care of herself. She saved for retirement and all that. And she had the means to have someone come in and take care of her when she couldn't. And the other piece of, and I know we got to go, but the other piece I will leave with people, Tamara, is, many of us are women of faith. And I think about all those years, my mother was a praying woman. When them old people used to say, sending up your timber, my mother sent up her timber. And now when she really can't pray for herself, all them prayers that she sent ahead, listen, her life is beautiful. My job is only to be the caretaker and walk it out. But her and God set that whole thing up to where if I do the right thing, my mom is set, and I can be her daughter, and I can love on her, and I can allow the professionals to take care of the other part of her new normal. And so if I can encourage anybody to do anything, is to make sure that you are setting plans for the future, and remember that you're raising kids to speak for you one day. And let's make sure, as T talked about, pouring into them and making sure they're solid, because one day they're going to have to speak for you. And it's going to be a disruption, but they're going to be all right. They're going to flip it, and they're going to take care of you, and everybody's going to be good. And so I just appreciate this time, Tamara, and you allowing me to come on and say a few words. Happy New Year to everyone. And I just look forward to what this year is going to bring for all of us. And I'm really excited.
Thank you so much for being here. Happy New Year to you. And I can't wait till you get back into your space and redecorate some things and redo some things, because that is what you do. But it's so funny. And I can't leave without saying this. You know, we are who we are. And sometimes we deny it, and sometimes we don't know it or recognize it. But you started a company called Image Anew. That right there is about becoming new, making things new. And even though that's a separate thing, we are not talking about that at this moment. You're helping people to look good on the outside, reinvent themselves, you know, whether it's making sure they wear the right thing to that interview, or what's that getting to that next level. But everything you talked about was also about that image anew. So I
Yeah.
appreciate who you are, and I see who you are. And I appreciate you being my sister friend. And I appreciate you coming on, spending the time and sharing. And I wish you and your mom the best. I know we'll talk.
Yeah.
You know, we got to put talking on our calendar, because I'm telling you, we'll look up like, okay, it's tomorrow.
Right. Exactly. And we got on yesterday.
Yeah.
So I love you. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the show. So I'm going to log off so that the next person can come on. And I am excited to see how this finishes out. Tamara, kudos to you for doing this. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.
So, as you can see, when I said I had a few of my friends, these are my friends. These are the people that I count on. These are the people that I call when I need some words of encouragement, when I need that inspiration. So, I'm just sharing them with you today. So, I hope that you are enjoying this. I hope that you hear different stories. I hope that you see yourself, different aspects of your life in all of these stories and nuggets that are being shared, because I really want you to see that it's not just you, it's all of us. And if we can do it, so can you. And these might be people who are places where you're trying to go, places where you've been and you're going to a next level, but you can kind of hear how we all still need to be inspired and motivated and to be held accountable so that we can go to our next levels. So I am ready to share the next person with you. And this one's going to go a little bit different because we have to do something special for her. But this person is an inspiration. And I'm not going to say she's just an inspiration because of her condition or what she deals with in life. It's not that. if you know her and you just get to talk to her a little bit, you will meet someone who lets nothing hold them back. And that in itself is an inspiration and a message that we all need to hear. She is beautiful. Her hair is always on point. There is nothing I can say about her. She is just a beautiful person inside and out. And I'm just so happy that she agreed to be a part of this. This is Miss Tykia Wright. Some of you have known her throughout Columbus for operating Right Choice, which is a play on her last name. You know that she is a firm believer in people having fairness, disabilities, and having rights. And one of the things she fought for in her company was making sure that people with disabilities got work and were able to have um, the same kind of things that we all have when it comes to choices for employment and things like that. So that's really how she got her company started. But she's so much more than that. And now she's a consultant. She is the visionary behind the Right Choice brand, which has expanded. So she's not just doing that anymore. But even on a national field, she was a part of President Obama's initiatives and let her voice be heard in that arena. So we're going to talk to her a little bit today. She is here now. I'm going to go ahead and put this down so you can see her beautiful face and her fabulous hair, as I'm always talking about. Miss Tykia Wright. Hello, dear. How are you? I can't hear you, so you may be on mute a little bit. But what we're going to do with Miss Tykia is that she is in a position because of everything that's going on. She cannot talk too much or do anything too much, but she still wanted to be a part of this day. I wanted her to be a part of this day. So we kind of conducted our interview a little bit differently. She actually submitted all of her answers to my questions via writing, and so she'll be able to chime in a little bit. But I'm going to read what I asked her and what she said to me, and then we will have her chime in as she can. Can you hear? Can we hear you now? Up, we still can't hear you. Let me just double check to see. I don't have you on mute. Just wanted to double check that. Okay, so while she works on her sound, we are going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to bring up some of the things that she and I have talked about. Let me pull this up here. So, one of the first questions that I asked Tykia, I asked her, what is the message that she has to share with the world? And what she said to me is that inclusion matters. You know, a lot of times we take that for granted, but inclusion matters. As a woman, a minority, and a person with a disability, there are many biases in the world that would try to limit her opportunities to contribute. And she says, but I have made it my mission to create an agency for people to be offered inclusion and belonging. And so I mentioned the Right Choice organization that she started, but I wanted to give a brief overview of her personal story so that you can learn just a little bit more about when I talk about someone who doesn't let anybody alter their opportunities. This is that person. So she says, and I'm just going to read what she wrote. She says, I can count on one hand the number of times that I got frustrated or upset because of the way I was designed. Even as a little girl, I was pretty confident in knowing that God created me this way to bring Him all the glory. Every child has dreams, but developing the will to pursue them can ultimately set life standards. As a child, I mentally mapped out my path of life. When I viewed the world through my bedroom window, that path seemed so simple. But outside my front door, I soon found that simple would turn to complex and that I'd be looking at systematic ableism in the face for the rest of my life. Listen to what I just said. When I read this, I became emotional just reading because she never shared all of this with me, even though we talk often as well. She never shared this with me. And sometimes I think we take that for granted and we don't realize what that looks like. We're always planning our lives and setting up plans, and I want to do this, and this is the path I want to go. But what happens when something stands in the way of you being able to realize those dreams or to follow that path? And that is what really struck me about Tykia and just her plight in life and what she's had to deal with despite her determination to be who she is and to do the things that she wants to do. I'm just going to pause real quick because I'm looking at her. Do you still have a sound issue? Okay. Okay, I'm going to read you some of the questions that some of the, I'm just going to keep reading and then hopefully she'll be able to get her sound to be able to chime in. It says, my daughter will not live life not knowing how to write, was my parents' reply to the doctor's false predetermination of my abilities. This experience foreshadowed the hurdles that were yet to come and living with the condition that she has, which is Charcot-Marie-Tooth condition. Your daughter must be tested to see if she belongs in a special school. This was yet another negative statement that my parents had to combat. Her disability affects her hands and feet, not her brain, was their reply. Needless to say, I attended all the schools of my choice. I watched my parents fight my battles when I was still ignorant of the ways of the world, quickly equipped me to hold my own. And that's one of the things I just laugh about. If you know her, she definitely can and will hold her own. Having faith in God and myself and an unwavering drive to challenge the status quo pushed me to do many things that society labeled uncommon, especially for someone with a disability. Becoming the first high school cheerleader in the city of Columbus to pump up the crowd from a wheelchair is one example. Other examples included learning to drive, graduating with a master's degree, and successfully running my own company for 15 years and becoming a member of Delta Sigma Theta. I know some of her sorority sisters are on, and her sorority sister T Street was just on. I asked her, what is the greatest obstacle you had to overcome in your life? And I asked her that because some of us will look at her and think that it's her disability. So I wanted her to be able to tell her what was the greatest obstacle she had to overcome in her life. So she said, after I graduated from college, the job search process was one of my greatest obstacles. She said, I experienced the realities of unconscious bias or unintentional and unchecked acts of discrimination that perpetually limit employment opportunities for people with disabilities. I chose to navigate this obstacle by starting my own company, Right Choice Inc., where diversity, equity, and inclusion would be the foundation and people with disabilities felt accepted and celebrated. And for 15 years, the organization would serve as a source of diverse talent for business partners. Are you able to get your sound? I see your lips moving, but I can't hear you, love. Okay, and while she's still working at it, I'm just going to finish reading this. I told her that if she submitted these answers, I would read them so that she could just chime in where she wanted to and wouldn't have to say all of this. I asked her, what is one of your greatest life lessons? And she says, if there is not a seat at the table, I will bring my own, literally. Now, for those of you who don't know her, Tykia is so funny. And we talk all the time about, her being in the chair and just some of the things she says to make people laugh. We were working in the same office at one time because I actually worked for her as a consultant and worked with her at Right Choice at one point. And, she would say things like, I'm rolling over. And just little things because she is just a funny person as well. But she says if there is not a seat at the table, she will bring her own, literally. And what is your greatest accomplishment? What are you most proud of? Not only being able to run her own company for 15 years, and that's quite a long time. Entrepreneurs, you know what it takes to run that company, and you know what it takes to be responsible for other people's livelihoods. She did that for 15 years. Hold on one second, because I think she's trying to log on in another capacity so she can talk just a second. Okay, so I'm going to remove the other one so it doesn't cause an echo.
Nope, still not hearing you on the screen. I see your mouth moving.
I can hear you.
Yep, I can hear you, Takia.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so let me read this last thing and I'll let you chime in on a few of the things I've read with your answers. So the last thing that I asked you is what is your greatest accomplishment and what are you most proud of? And like I said, in addition to having your own company for 15 years, one of the things you talked about is the YWCA Women of Achievement Award. You talked about being appointed by President Barack Obama to serve as a commissioner for the President's Advisory Commission on Educational Excellence for African Americans. But what makes me most proud and keeps me humble is knowing that I've had a significant impact on the lives of a countless number of people. So those were the answers to her questions. But how are you, Tykia?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I know that even with what we discussed as some challenges going on right now, you still want to be a part of this. I wanted you to
Absolutely.
be a part of it. So we were going to figure out a way. And so I sent you the questions, and it's nice to be able to know your answers. But I want you to chime in on any way that you can that is not too taxing. But, I always talk to you about that being a cheerleader thing does something to me every time because here's somebody that says, look, I don't care what you say, what you thought you knew. I'm going to be a cheerleader and this is what I'm going to do. And she was the first cheerleader in Columbus, Ohio with a disability. And if you know her, first of all, that just lets you know she can't be stopped regardless. And so that does something to me every time I talk to her, every time I look at her. She is not phased by the status quo, what we think we know. She is willing to do what it takes. And you can imagine that wasn't easy. How many people were against that? How many people said, no, we don't want her out there. We don't want her to get hurt, or just trying to do things. And some of it wasn't always, it wasn't like we didn't want her to do it. We were concerned about her, trying to protect her. And she just wanted to be who she was. She wanted to be a cheerleader, and she was. So I just want you to, anything that you want to chime in and say, I want you to be able to do so. But we appreciate you being here and taking the time out to share just a part of your story with us.
Well, again, as many has stated this afternoon, thank you for the opportunity to just be amongst this amazing group of inspirational, motivational. I think I've gotten tuned up again this year. Um, action, despite the distraction. That's what I'm all about. And then all the other messages that have been shared. So you talk about, and we talk about cheerleading. And I tell you, I don't think that it was not wanting her to get hurt, but a lot of it was just not knowing what to do.
Mhm.
It was a situation where, the city of Columbus school district, they just didn't know what to do. And me, I'm on the sidelines, literally, you know, looking at like, this is what I'm going to do. So y'all need to figure out the logistics. And that was really my attitude and my approach. I knew that I had spirit. I enjoyed sports, and I wanted to do not something that would be quote unquote remarkable or something that the news media would seek out a news story for. But for me, it was something that I just internally wanted to do. And, they said, well, tryouts are, this week, and you have to do A, B, and C to, complete your tryout. And in my mind, the only thing that I couldn't do was jump. So at that point, I made up my chair and I put some wristbands on my wrist, and I went and made it happen. And honey, they didn't know what to do. But as the weeks went on and they began to have serious conversations about this young lady who's in a wheelchair, and she is migrating into mainstream sports, we, as the Columbus Public School System, and more importantly, the transportation system, we have to figure out what we need to accommodate her. So at that point, the transportation system came together, and they identified the drivers who would transport me back and forth to practices and games. And for the last 2 years of my high school career, I not only made the cheerleading team, but became the varsity captain my senior year. And
Amen.
I tell you, in the beginning, one of the questions were, well, maybe we should make her the mascot. I
Mm.
said, the heck you ain't gonna make me somebody's mascot. So I let them figure that out. And they tabled that thought.
So,
So I went on and got my uniform and continued about my business. But
and
it
that,
wasn't until um, a year later that I went to, we all remember Northland Mall.
mhm.
And I was in the mall, and a young lady in a wheelchair came up to me, so excited. And she said, "Oh my gosh, I saw you on the news. And because you became a cheerleader, I know that I can become one too." So that's when the light bulb went off for me that what I was doing, even though I was doing it in my own skin and according to my own, the beat of my own drum, I realized that I was doing it not for me, but for an entire generation of young people that needed to feel included and needed somebody to show them that they can. So that
absolutely.
was really the foreshadowing to my life. I
Right.
didn't know it then, but I know it now.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted you to be here because that's how I see it. I see that cheerleading experience as a foreshadow to everything that you've done that people don't think you could have done or should have done.
Yeah.
I have driven it, rode in the car with you. She drives, she has this, pimped out ride that accommodates her. She goes where she wants, does what she wants. You can run into the Taiki at the mall. She might be in Nordstrom's looking at something like this is who she is. She will shop. She's so independent, and some people look at her and don't think she should be. But that has really, for me, that's who I see when I see her. You can't look at someone and feel sorry for them or think they need your help because she doesn't. And that's what I love about her. She said, you know what? I'm having problems finding a job. Well, I'll just start my own company. Oh, okay. Other people are having problems finding. Okay, I'm going to help them out. And she's ran a company for 15 years, and I think that's so significant to me because some people have a hobby, some people have a side hustle, but have you ever ran a business that really pays for the livelihood of other people? Do you have staff? Do you have to pour into and be responsible for other people's lives? No, she had a actual business. And even in comparison to what I do, I'm a solopreneur. So my business is me, my kids, every now and again. And yes, I pay them for things. I work with other people, I partner, but she had her own business for 15 years and she ran it like a boss. I'm telling you, if you ever went to her office and saw her roll through, okay, she was truly the boss on wheels. And she was so gracious, but she didn't take anybody's stuff and she didn't allow her being in a wheelchair to make her inferior to what was going on around her. She was at the table, negotiating at the table. We took a trip one time. We traveled to Indianapolis for an idea that she had, and I was introducing to her to some other partners to help her. And really just being at the table, having a discussion. She wasn't scared to do any of it. And that's why I love her so much. And I wanted to share her and her story with you today because physically you look at her, okay, she's in a wheelchair, and you might think like, oh my goodness, how is she doing this? Where's the people that are helping her? No, she's alone. She's by herself. She drove here. And that is just a testimony to a lot of people, whether you have a physical disability or a mental one, things that are holding you back. Here's a person that doesn't let anything hold her back. Is she tired? Does she have limitations? Sometimes, yes, but it doesn't stop her from doing what she needs to do. It doesn't stop her from becoming a cheerleader and doing the hard stuff. Some of us quit because we don't want to fill out the paperwork. I mean, let's just be real. When it gets hard, we no longer want to do it. We had an idea. Okay, yeah, I want to be a cheerleader, but how am I going to get to and from the games? You know what? It's just too much. I'm not going to figure it out. No, y'all figure it out because this is what I'm doing, and you can't tell me that I can't. But she's done all those things despite anything that we might see as a disability. And the thing that she does have a disability, she does need help, but it hasn't stopped her from being who she is and that path that she had a long time ago for herself. She did it. She went to college. She went to Wright State. She has a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, like all of those things she has done. And if anybody does not look at this woman and say, wow, then you're crazy. And it also should put some fire up under your butt that no matter what your mental or physical disability is, that you still have to keep moving. You still have to take action. You can do it. And she is just that person just signifies that for me. And so we talk often. She is going to be working on a project that we're going to be working on to tell more of these stories, to share more of these stories. And did you hear her say she did not become a cheerleader for the media attention? She did not do a media stunt. She did it because this is what she really wanted to do. And sometimes it's not about getting the attentions of others or being on the news or being in the limelight. She has done this stuff because this is who she is and what this is her normal life. This is what I'm trying to tell you all. You have no idea. This is her normal life. This is what she does. And she, while she stays with her parents, she's very independent and she does her own stuff. And I know her, I knew her father, I know her mother, and they're always there for her, but they come to her business and visit and bring food because she's running a business here. This is, if that's the kind of assistant she needs, y'all bring me some food because I'm working. You know, she had a corporate career. She worked at Nationwide for many years. And just nothing has stopped her. And that's the story I wanted to share with you all today. And I know I do not want to tax her beyond her strength today. But if there's anything you want to share, Tykia, please do. But you're not obligated to, because I can go back and reread your answers over and over again because people need to understand what I read as well. Like, you're like, look, I'm here at the table. I'm making choices for myself. I am demanding respect for myself and demanding what I want. I want an opportunity like everyone else has because I can do the work, I can take the action and make it happen.
You know, there's a quote within the DI community, diversity and inclusion community, and it says, diversity is being asked to the dance. Inclusion is diversity is being asked to being asked to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance, and belonging is when they play my song. So I just encourage everyone. Inclusion matters, belonging matters. So just make sure that you are being intentional about inviting people in to the dance, but also ask them what their song is and make sure that you play it so they know that they belong, their voice is being heard, and that they matter. So I thank you for the opportunity to join you as one of your sister friends this afternoon. And I look forward to the rest of the show.
Thank you so much. And I said, if you see Tykia out, say hello because you will see her out somewhere because that's just who she is. She's going to go to the restaurant. She's going to do what she wants. She's going to go to party celebrations. I've seen her. She's come to events that I've had. She came to my book signing. Like, she is just going to be out and about, and she will do what she wants. And sometimes when you look at someone who has a disability, your first thought might be to feel sorry for them, or you just want to help them or make it a little easier for them. I'm just here to tell you that they are just like you and I. They are just like you and I. They are capable. They might ask you for help, but you don't need to just go trying to give help because she don't need that.
I
So,
say we can do everything that you can do. We just do it a little
absolutely.
bit differently.
And through our friendship, that is what I truly learned because I'm also a helper. And I'm also like, okay, Takia, when I first started working with her every day, I just wanted to help. What do you need? I mean, she was like, look, like, okay, we got work to
I
do.
got this.
And I learned that swiftly and quickly. And I also learned that, I mean, she's my friend. We can talk about anything. We can talk about anything. And she lives her life just like you and I. And that is what I'm most impressed with. And she is not going to let anyone stand in her way. And the fact that she fights for others, not everyone has a voice like Takia has. Not everybody has that strength or that attitude, but she's here to be an advocate for them and to show them the way. So I appreciate you, my sister. And we will be talking. She will have an
Yes,
exciting project coming up, but she's going
absolutely.
to be sharing her story in a bigger way. That's all I can say about it. But just real quick, if you have not, we were talking when I talked with Dr. Womack, we were talking about how we actually worked in the publishing and we had books Who's Who in Black, and we did countries. I mean, we did cities across the country. Well, Takia had a publication as well. What was the publication called?
So it was called Diversibility Ohio. And the goal of the publication was to celebrate the leadership and accomplishments of professionals with disabilities across the state. The idea behind the book was just to magnify who we are in the workforce and ensure that we're celebrated for our contributions, because so many times the expectations are lowered and advancements and promotions are not readily presented to us. But I wanted this publication to shine a different light on who we are. And it was amazing because everyone that read it said that they had to sit back and check themselves and say, what am I doing with myself? So it was really a publication full of just stories, real stories of people with various types of challenges, no different from you and I, but they still persevered to attain a college degree, get multiple degrees in some instances, and really pushed forward in their careers. And I felt that they needed to be celebrated just like African Americans or Blacks
Yes.
or the Latinos or the judges. So that was my platform, just to celebrate who we are and the contributions that we make every day to the workforce.
And see, and that's what I'm talking about. She saw a need and she said, "Let's do it." I worked with her on another event. I think this might have been the first time I met you. You were planning some big event in Columbus, Dancing with the Stars, or
Yeah.
or something like that. And here she is at the table, just giving orders and talking and being the boss that she is, and just watching her do what she does. If she has a dream, if she has something she wants to do, she's going to get it done and she's going to do the work to get it done. So I appreciate you, my sister. I
Thank
love you.
you.
We will be talking soon
Yes.
because I can't wait for you to be able to share your story in a much larger way and to impact more people, to be an inspiration. But you're just a beautiful person on the inside and out. I love talking to you. And she's another one. We can go to the lunch. Well, we can go to breakfast that turns into lunch and just shut the whole place down. That is
Exactly.
who we are and what we do. So I appreciate you being here and I love you.
Love you
And I
too.
can't wait for the next level.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
So I know that was a little bit different, but as you can see, she was trying to not have to talk so much, and we respect that. But she still wanted to be here, and I still wanted her to be a part of this. So we're going to move on to the last person that I have on the lineup today, and I may have something special for you after that, as I'm trying to still work out something that I was talking about earlier. So we will see if that comes to fruition. But this next person that I have for you, so I am known for when I run into good people. I know good people when I run into them. And when I run into them, I hang on to them. I build relationships with them. And this person I have a natural connection with. We got together because we knew a mutual person that kind of brought us together. And she wanted me to help her with some stuff. But many of you know, as a coach, and you've heard it here, particularly from Serena, when it comes to coaching, I'm just a matter of fact person. I tell it like it is because I think people appreciate that. But there's enough success out here for all of us. And I do not mind pouring into people, help them build their brands, helping them to do what will get them more exposure and reach more people. I don't mind sharing that and doing that. And this next person, that's how we connected, but that's not where the relationship ended. Dr. Janelle Jones. And when I tell you, I have just watched her over the years just do some things. And the reason why I wanted to, and I'm not tooting my own horn here, toot toot, but it's special when you can pour into somebody and you can watch somebody go to different levels. Even if you're here and this person gets here, it is okay that you've poured into that person. And more of us need to do that. The relationships that I have, the relationships that I have shared here with you today are my real relationships. People that I poured into, they poured into me. We're all at different levels. We collaborate. There's enough to go around. So collaboration is key. Relationships are key. And I just want to share with you my relationship with Dr. Janelle Jones. She is a beautiful spirit, a beautiful person. And we connected. Come to find out, we knew we had people that were connected way back when, and we just found each other some years ago. But her story is amazing. And I know she's an amazing person, but her personal story is what made me gravitate toward her, and the love that I feel for her grew out of that. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Dr. Janelle Jones. Hello, how are you?
Hi. Oh my goodness.
Hi, thank you so much. This means so much. So I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I am happy that you agreed to do so. You and I have been connected for a few years now and just sharing our stories. I really wanted to bring you on for a couple of reasons. One, just the evolution that you've had in the last couple of years has been amazing. You know, you set your mind on a thing and you started doing it. You went into the vault and you reinvented what you were doing. When you and I first started talking, it was like, okay, this is what we're doing. And I was one of those people who said, okay, we need to just break it all down and start over. And sometimes when you hear that, your inclination is to stop, or I'm doing it wrong, or this isn't good. I'm not good enough. Oh my goodness. But that's not what it was.
Mhm.
I see, still see the potential in Dr. Janelle Jones. And I know that she has an amazing story to share with the world. And I wanted to be a part of that journey. And so part of that journey was backing it up, taking it down and rebuilding it back up. And she was willing to go the distance because her passion for what she does is real. So she is a social worker. She's been working for many years as a clinical therapist, but she's also the founder of Melanin Grace Publishing. She has come out with a few books, but I want to show this book again because this is the book that she revamped and really began to rethink her brand and what it was she wanted to share with the world. So, Janelle, I'm going to let you share a little bit about your story
Okay.
and just kind of what that message you have for the world really is.
Whew, where do we begin? But I do want to thank you. So even like looking at that book cover, listen, Tamara was like, girl, like she designed the book. Let's just be honest. She designed the book cover. She like for everybody who is listening, if you don't have a coach or a mentor or someone in your life to like really take you to that next level, even with your dreams, I know I'm supposed to share my story, but even with your dreams, she pulled so much out of me because it was like I wasn't clear. I had all this stuff, but I wasn't clear on my message and what did I wanted to say to people. She designed the book cover. She said, girl, what are we doing with? What are you trying to say to people? I was like, okay. So I kept coming to the drawing board. So I'm so thankful for her in that capacity. It meant so much. And it really changed the face of my business and my brand because I took that and I produced so much out of that. So we'll start with my story. So I was a little brown girl raised in the projects of Columbus, Ohio. My family grew up very impoverished. I always tell people my family was on every drug. When I say every drug that was out there. And I grew up in that crack epidemic. So like the 80s and 90s. And in the hood, it was hellacious dealing with the crack epidemic. But everybody in my family was on something. My mom all the way down to my brothers. My mom had me when she was 45. So a lot of my siblings were older than me. Well, we grew up and the struggle was very real. By the time I was 5 years old, I already had two major tragedies happen in my life. The first one was I had lost a sister to domestic violence. She was 17 at the time, and her boyfriend killed her. And by the next year, my father was murdered by his dad. So by the age of 5, I had lost two very important people in my life. And at that age, you don't really understand what's going on or what's happening. So you just kind of chuckle through the emotions and you kind of move on. I didn't realize the impact that it would have on me not having my father there. So of course, I began to like feeling insecure, not really knowing who I am, struggling with school. I actually realized as a counselor that I struggled with a undiagnosed learning disability, which was dyslexia. I really struggled in school. But as time went on, the girl meets boy, girl falls in love with boy as a teenager, and girls get pregnant at the age of 16 and I had a kid by the age of 17. And at that time, I didn't know who I was. We were so young and I really was looking for myself in this boy. Like I almost made this boy my dad. Like everything I knew was in him because I didn't have that and I yearned for that. Well, time went on and we went through some crazy stuff. We ended up getting married, had 2 more kids, and we got divorced. And this divorce, I like to call it the Jerry Springer and Maury Povich divorce, okay? Because it was so crazy, just the custody battle and all the stuff that we had to endure and go through. As time went on, I really had to determine who I was. My family come from a generation where, no one was living out their dreams and really no one graduated from high school. So I wanted to figure out what was more. I knew that it wasn't where I was. I knew there was more to me, but I didn't know how to get there. I knew that I was birthed with a purpose, but I had no direction on where to go. So I sought all that. I ended up going to school and I ended up getting like my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, and everything. And even with those degrees, it taught me a lot of discipline. Listen, if you're in school, you feel me, a lot of discipline, but it didn't connect me to my purpose. It didn't connect me to my identity, right? So my identity was something I was looking for. I was knee deep in church. I was involved in about everything the church had. If the church doors opened at 7 o'clock in the morning, your girl was there, right? I was involved in so many things, but I still did not know who I was. And for my church folks, I'm not saying nothing's wrong with church, but what I'm saying is I didn't know who I was in God. There's one thing to be involved religiously, but I didn't know who I was connected to who created me. That's a whole different level. So I went on this self-discovery journey to figure out who that person was. And by this time I was 36 years old, right? And I'm like, this ain't it, right? I'm giving everything to everybody. Every time somebody comes, because I'm a natural person who wants to help people. I knew that was connected to my purpose. I always wanted to help people, but I found myself empty. I found myself depleted, miserable. And I was giving so much of myself to so many people. And I found myself not doing that, getting anything back in return. So I made sure the kids was taken care of, my mama, because my mom, I was caregiving for her, my husband, my sister, my nieces, my nephew, the cat, the goldfish. I mean, anybody that was in my way, I'm like, let me try to be there for you. And I felt so empty. So I went on this self-discovery journey where I decided to put myself in a position where I was first. And when I did that, it completely changed my life. And so my message that I want to share with people is the thing I had to learn to do. I had to go on this journey to understand who I was. So I had to know myself and I had to know my worth. And those are two things I want to share with people, because let me tell you, when you know who you are and you know your worth, it changes every aspect of your life, from personal to business to professional, everything. Because I was at this low level. My esteem was shot. I was insecure. Like I was just like in the gutter. And although outwardly, I had this beautiful look, right? In my opinion, I had this beautiful look. The inside of me was broken and tore up, like completely tore up. And so it was one of them things where it was like, if I don't know who I am or my value, then I'm going to just continue to let my life just happen. And I just refuse to exist. I refuse to just be here and doing and just living in emotion. I knew there was more and I had to figure out how to get there. So when I began to connect knowing myself and knowing my worth to my getting to my purpose, my life changed.
Absolutely. And so you can already see why I gravitated to Janelle. Like she and I are kindred spirits. One of the things that I love about her and her story, we hear stories all the time of how some of us have trouble. We didn't grow up in the best environment. And we don't always see that till we're adults, how it has affected our lives. And when she says that she was looking for herself, one of our conversations, and we've had some doozy conversations, but in sharing your story, what are you really trying to help people with? And sometimes we don't want to share that real story. We want to fluff over it like, oh, I had some troubles in my childhood, but now I'm great and I'm this. Janelle was just not afraid to share that story. People look at you sometimes. I had a child, my first child, when I was 16. I had turned 17, 21 days later, but I was 16. I went to college. I went to Howard University. I took my child with me to college. So some of those things that she was building herself up, digging herself out of her environment, I knew what that looked like. And so she and I connected on that level as parents, as watching our kids suffer sometimes by the choices that we've made, things like that. So we connected over that stuff, but she was willing to not only help herself, but to help others in that way. So when we dug down into her brand, so many of us have a message that we want to share. Let's be real about that, or a message that we can share with others to help them. But are we willing to do it? Are we willing to dig deep and really share that real message that people need to hear? Yes, it's great that you were able to do this on your own despite your circumstances. But if we don't know what those circumstances are, sometimes we don't see just how significant that is, or we don't see ourselves in it. So when Janelle started building this brand and sharing these nuggets about herself, and really looking at herself, and that book says it all begins with you.
Mhm.
Like, I really knew that she had tapped into the story that she was to share with the world. And she does it so effortlessly, and she's very transparent. And I think that's why young women connect with her. She is younger than I. And I told her all the time, I said, I was not trying to turn her into me, because she is who she is. And so, as you mentor and coach someone, it's not about, oh, I'm right, you're wrong, or you need to do this. So, it wasn't that. It was like, who needs to hear from you? I tell her all the time, particularly for speakers, if you know, we're like Bibles, Bibles come in many formats. You might have the NIV, you got the King James, you got all these different Bibles, because people can read a certain Bible and really get it when they connect with it. We're like that. People could connect with us differently. There's someone that needs to hear from me. There's someone that needs to hear from Janelle. And I think that's what really makes me love her so much, because when that clicked for her and she wanted to share that story, and she's willing to share those stories, everything's not perfect. And it's not about glorifying anything. It's not about sharing those things for attention. It's about sharing things and connecting with those people who feel the same way you do, and need to hear that, so that they can go on and be better and be bigger and see bigger for themselves. But that know your worth conversation, woo, that is the heart of what you do, that you are enough and that you are worthy. And just watching that transform in you. You all have don't know, even in a couple of years since we've talked and you first, broke that brand down. I mean, I've seen you on billboards, you've been traveling, you've been international. Like, she has really been out here doing her thing. And I think her story I want to share also is that, again, like Dr. Womack, it doesn't matter where you come from. It's about where you end up, what you're willing to do to get yourself where you need to be. And I just appreciate that about you. I wish you all the best. I mean, even now, she's Dr. Janelle Jones. She wasn't doctor before, and she is now, because she's willing to put in the work. She's willing to work two jobs. She just lost her mother a couple of weeks ago, and that was very hard for her. And I had to reach out to her during that, because it's hard. And she was taking care of her mother. She brought her mother to her home, and was being the daughter she knew how to be. She said her mother had her when she was 45, so she was older. And Janelle still took the responsibility for taking care of her mother, and she did it with all her might. And she spent a lot of time with her. And so, one thing I'm confident in is that you didn't leave anything. You were empty when it came to your mom. She knew you loved her, because you showed her, and you were able to show her that even more so in the final weeks, but in your care for her. So I just love you. I love your story. I hope it encourages someone that you need to know your worth. You need to know how
Mm.
important you are. And you need to be willing to share that with others, but you need to be willing to take care of yourself first, even when it feels selfish, even when you have responsibilities to others. You still have to find the time and energy for yourself. And that's another thing we talked about too. It's one thing to want to do something, to have a dream, but not have the time or energy to
Yep.
actually do it. I have 5 kids. I have 3 daughters, a son, and a bonus son I gained along the way. So I know what it means to have to take care of the responsibilities for others and not do what you want to do for yourself. And so when I'm coaching clients, I gravitate towards those that kind of have that same kind of thing, and need to find that balance so they can be who they are. You are an important person to this world. People need to hear from you. And I am really happy to see you put the work in to make it happen and to build that brand that we all needed to hear, but that audience of people that is waiting for you needs to hear. So I do appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing those stories with me and sharing them with others. She has a program that she does for girls. I was able to help make her some t-shirts for that, but she had an idea about how she wanted to help people at an earlier age, because a lot of times some of the women that she pours into are really those little girls she didn't have a chance to help or touch, and they turn into those broken women as well. And so she recognized that, so she started that program. This is just a young woman out here doing things and pouring into others, and I love to see that and love to help with that. So that's one of the reasons I brought you here. So I appreciate you sharing your story and being here with us. I mean, what do you think was the biggest obstacle you had to overcome to get to that knowing point of, I need to know my worth? What was it that broke you to that point where you said, this is the answer?
Sure. So many things has happened to me, and thank you so much. I just love you, girl. But so much has happened, in my life. But to be honest with you, like, I was in this position. The thing that broke me was like, girl, you need to figure it out. Was I was in a position where I was stuck. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. My back was up against the wall. And I had to decide how I was going to live the next 20 or so years of my life. And what I mean by that, at that point, I was working for the state of Ohio for 20 years, right? And, hindsight is like, oh, this is a great job. You've been at the state of Ohio, because I started working there when I was 18.
First of all, you look 20, so I don't know how you worked anywhere for 20 years. But okay, I'm going to let you go ahead and claim that.
Yes, that's so funny. But I was there 20 years, chugging along, right? Get my pension and moving along. And I felt so unhappy. And so I'm like, it has, I'm questioning what's going on. It's more, I always had these dreams in the back of my mind, but I didn't know how to get there. I remember one day driving to my job, and it was like 7:15 in the morning, and I'm just bawling. I'm crying. And it was like, what is going on? And I remember going, why am I feeling this sad? And it was like, because it was the mundane going to get up, go to work, go home, go to bed. If you remember that McDonald's commercial, and I didn't want to live that life anymore. And so I had to go and really begin to think. But the biggest obstacle, which I know that I thought that was it, but the biggest obstacle was my mindset. All this stuff was going on. All this stuff happened to me, whether it was good or bad, but my mindset had to shift. My mindset didn't believe I was worthy of more. My mindset didn't believe I was worthy of creating all this stuff that I wanted to, or to reach my dreams. So the biggest obstacle was really overcoming that limited mindset belief.
Wow. And many of us don't know it, or we don't see it, but the mindset, and we talked about that often, is the key to a lot of this. We've heard Dr. Stacy talk about belief in yourself. The mindset is so key, and it really determines how we go about things, how we feel about ourselves, and how we ultimately can survive and make things happen for ourselves. So I appreciate that. I am so glad that you do the work that you do, not only professionally as a social worker, but pouring into people even outside of that. I just know that you are going to hear Dr. Janelle Jones, you're going to hear that in bigger platforms, in bigger spaces, in more books, because she has so much on the horizon that she's working on. And I believe all of it for you. I love you, and I really appreciate you, and thank you for being here with us today.
Oh, I love you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So it's so funny because out of all of this, the people that you've heard today, whether it's Dr. Stacy, Serena Brown Travis, Dr. Womack, T Street, Tony, Tykea, Janelle, these are all people that I love dearly. I asked all of them to be a part of this today just simply because I wanted to really kick off 2021 with some hope, some inspiration, and really give people some motivation that you can do more in 2021, despite what happened to us last year in 2020, the things we've had happen to us over life. You are just really in a position to take back control and do the things that you want to do. I hope today has been inspiring. And I wore my special shirt today. Actually, let me see if I could show you a better picture of it. So this actually says, I'm an actor, and it's the verb of the word actor. So for 2021, my thing is, you heard about all my side hustles, people making jokes. Carter said I was on the AP commercial. So as a side hustle, I do some acting, and people always ask me how I get started, about my agent, things like that. But in my professional business, I want you to become an actor, not an actor on stage or in a movie, but an actor in your own life. And really, that's what this whole show was about today. Message and motivation is something that I've been thinking about for a while. It's a segment that I'm going to be doing on my radio show, Tamara Hartley Radio. If you haven't tuned into that, there are a couple of episodes already up, but it's what I'm doing to help you take action in your own life. So I hope you have enjoyed this day. I was trying not to make this an all day thing, but you can see how easily I can get caught up in all this. Talking to my friends that I speak to on a regular basis, they're also motivating. We're all out here doing things, helping each other go to the next level. I hope that whatever it is you want to do, that you actually do more in 2021. If you need help as a coach, make sure you visit my website, I do have some programs, some downloads, some freebies. I have all kind of things to help you do some of the things that we talked about here today. If there's something you want to do, do it. Do not let anything hold you back anymore. If you didn't get to do everything you wanted to do last year, sometimes we just make resolutions every new year, but we really don't act on them. I am really, while I believe in motivation, I'm really about activation. That is my ministry. That is what I do. I help and push people to take action so that you can bring what's in your mind into the marketplace and bring all of your dreams to fruition. So I was going to play on the way out. Les Brown was unable to join us today. And it's so funny because he sent me a message yesterday. He was all excited. You know, he's fluffing his hair. I'm not sure if you've been seeing his lives lately, but he has this hairstyle where his hair is like really big. He's just so elated that he can still grow his hair out, looking like Kid from House Party. So that's like our little running joke. So he was fluffing his hair out yesterday to be a part of this. But as I was digging through my crates, I actually found an interview that he and I did some time ago, and he shared some things in that interview that I thought were so interesting. And we talked with his daughter today, and she talked about how she didn't always feel motivated, and she grew up in the first family of motivation. This interview I had done with Les Brown some time ago, and he shared some, I asked him to share something with me that he hadn't shared with anyone, and he talked about those insecurities he had getting started as a speaker. So as we go out, I would like to play this interview. It is only about a 15-minute interview, but this is an interview that I did with Les Brown where he shared a lot of the nuggets that he always shares with all of us. Everyone you met, from Stacy to myself and Serena, we're all his students. We all have sat under him. We've all participated in his events. So he is truly important to us. And I am so sorry that he could not be here with us today. But you all know that he's been with me in past occasions and has always been willing to share his wisdom. So I want to play this for you so that you can hear from him himself and just some of the things that has helped transform his life and his career of motivating the masses. He's such an important person to the world, but he's also a very important person to me. So I just wanted to share this. First, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with us today. Can you please just take a few moments to introduce yourself and tell us exactly who you are and what you do in this world?
I'm Les Brown. I'm a speaker, a speech coach, and author.
As we all know, success is relative. It's different for every person. So what is your definition of success, and do you consider yourself successful?
My definition of success is doing something that you're passionate about, that provides value for others and can make a difference in your life and in the lives of the people that you touch. And I consider myself being successful because of the fact that that's exactly what I'm doing. I believe that I was born to speak and to teach others how to use their voice and their story to make a difference, as well as to build a financial empire.
Growing up, what is it that you always dreamed of doing? What is it that you wanted to be? And are you currently living that dream today?
When I was growing up, sometimes I find it difficult to believe. I used to carry around a card that said, "I'm the world's greatest orator." When I was 10 years old and I first heard Earl Nightingale, who had a recording, a motivational recording called "The Greatest Secret in the World." And he said, "Write down the goal that you'd like to achieve on a 3x5 card. And on the flip side, write a scripture, ask and it shall be given, seek and you shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you." Well, after reading Marcus Garvey and Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, and other great orators, that was something that I wanted to do. I saw an interview with Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and I said, that's what I want to do. And now I'm living that. I find it kind of ironic that as a result of my pursuing that and holding that vision, that I was selected among the top 5 speakers in the world in 1992 by Toastmasters International.
What are your passions and the things that bring you joy?
The greatest passion that I have learning and taking on new projects, to do something that's outside of my comfort comfort zone, to take on something that I've never done before, because my goal is to live a life that matters, to make a mark with my life, to see people living their dream, getting out of their comfort zone. That gives me a great deal of joy.
We often see people that we think are successful and we see where they are right now, but we tend not to understand exactly what they had to endure on their personal success journey. What obstacle in your life had you had to deal with and or overcome in order for you to pursue your dreams?
When I think about my life and the biggest obstacle that I had to overcome, I know clearly what it is. The easiest thing I do is like preparing for this interview or going on stage tomorrow to speak in Anaheim, California, to talk to around 5,000 people, or the tour that I just completed, touring with Sir Richard Branson in Perth and Adelaide, Australia, London, England, and Johannesburg, South Africa. That's easy speaking. But the most difficult and the most challenging obstacle that I had to overcome in my life, and it took me years to do, was to believe that I could do it, to believe in myself, to believe that I had something to say, to believe that given my circumstances, born in an abandoned building on a floor in a poor section of Miami, Florida called Liberty City, being adopted, being labeled educable, mentally retarded, put back from the 5th grade to the 4th grade, failing again in the 8th grade, no college training, never working for a major corporation. The only experience I had working for a corporation is Skyway Broadcasting Company in Columbus, Ohio, WVKO radio station, where I was Les Brown, but bad about town. To believe that I could be on stages around the world and impact and influence millions of people around the world, given my beginning and all the little bit that I had going for me. that has been the biggest obstacle that I had to overcome.
So often when we see someone we admire or someone who we feel, that they're successful and we ask about their journey, we kind of get a fluff answer, something that's not really tangible to us. So I want to ask, what specific steps did you take to get where you are right now?
The biggest decision that I made that allowed me to discover this voice that you now hear, which I consider your power voice, and I believe that we all have one. And a power voice is not the sound of your voice. It's who you are behind the words, the kind of person that you have become, the work that you put in on yourself and that which you're passionate about. The biggest decision that I made when I saw Zig Ziglar, Robert Schuller, Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins speak, and my heart said, I can do that. And I was going to this event to get inspired. And when I watched them, my heart was beating fast. And I love changing people's lives. And I said, I could do that. But my mind would always ask how. And for 14 years, I didn't do it. And on that day, when I saw them, I called Mike Williams. I called Mike and I said, I'm ready.
Who were your role models, your coaches, and mentors?
Mike became my mentor. I encourage everybody to get a mentor, to get someone in your life who can see what you can't see. And as a result of what he saw in me, sometimes you have to believe in somebody's belief in you until your belief kicks in. They say faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing. He's been telling me for years that I was more than a disc jockey. And because of his vision for me, and it finally kicked in, this voice that you now hear has changed millions of lives. Because of what he saw for me as an entrepreneur, I've generated over $65 million doing what I love to do, speaking to corporations and organizations and people around the world. It is very important to have someone in your life that can see what you can't see, someone who you respect, their level of thinking and accomplishment. I encourage everyone to find someone who's doing what it is you want to do on the level that you'd like to do it, and hook up, develop a relationship with them, and invest in yourself. I paid thousands of dollars to be able to become the person that I am today, because you don't get in life what you want. You get in life what you are. And I think the single most important investment you can make is put your money where your mouth is.
What is your greatest strength, and what is an area that you've had to work on and or improve in order for you to get where you are right now?
I believe my greatest strength is that I am coachable, that I'm willing to be told what to do and subjugate my pride and my ego. I think that made me a very good student for Mike Williams, that you have to have someone who can speak to you, and their word will have more value and impact to you than your own words and your own thinking, because they know more about you than you know about yourself, and they can bring the best out of you. The most important thing I had to work on in pursuing this career of being able to communicate and speak and have massive appeal is my knowledge base. I had to study. I had to be willing to take the time to study the culture of corporate America, to study the competition, to take the time to understand what is it that they want, and how is it that what I brought could fit in the context there. What are the things that I could do as a speaker? There are over 3,000 speakers. People said, you can't possibly succeed. There's no way that an African-American male with no college training, no corporate experience, will be selected to come in and train top leadership how to do something that that person has never done. There is no way you can do that. I heard that over and over and over again. One of the things I tell people, never let someone tell you what you can't do, especially if they haven't done it. I was willing to learn and to challenge myself to find out what is it that I have going for me that can make me stand out. I think it's important that a person find out what is it you have going for you and how can you stand out. But also, you want to study to show thyself approved.
How do you balance your life, family, faith, friends, and career?
It's really not about balance. It's how you integrate it. You have to integrate in your strategy and your goals that you want to achieve. First of all, a strategy for being here. You know, being here is not a given. I'm taking care of yourself. Integrate the things that you need to do to spend time with the people that you care about. It's got to be a part of your overall game plan. Your social relationships, your professional relationships, your personal relationships, and the relationship that you have with yourself. Because if you don't take care of you, at the end of the day, all the rest of the relationships will suffer. So you've got to have a game plan where you're living from a place of power, where you're living from a place of taking care of yourself as well as the people you care about and those other relationships that allow you to do the things that you want to do. A lady who swam from Cuba to Key West, she said something that was key. Life is not a solo act. It takes a team, and that's real. You've got to take care of the people that's in your circle. Practice the principle of OQP, only quality people. Integrate the people in your game plan, in your life, that you know that are there for you.
What advice would you give to someone wanting to follow in your footsteps?
The advice I would give someone who would like to follow in my footsteps is develop a relationship with someone who you respect what they have done, what they have accomplished, their insight, their judgment, and their commitment to higher standards, and who has a global vision. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself and speak to one group. You want to have a global vision, and so therefore you want a coach or a mentor who has a larger vision for you than you have for yourself. And find someone, and it's going to take some time, and interview them and find out if it's a good fit for you. And then go for it, because we need now more than ever before people who can bring a message of hope. And I say that when we can begin to have everyday people, ordinary people who've made a decision to live an extraordinary life and to use their story, see how people live their lives as a result of the story they believe about themselves, to use their story to give people hope and teach them methods and techniques and strategies and how they can live their dreams rather than their fears, we can create a better world. Horace Mann said we should be ashamed to die until we've made some major contribution to humankind. And I believe that all of us, with our experiences and our knowledge, and knowledge is the new currency, and using our story can make a major contribution to the planet.
What is next for you?
What's next for Les Brown is, as I mentioned earlier, training 100,000 voices of hope. So my goal is to train 100,000 voices of hope, of very ordinary people, young people as well as adults, on how to begin to become a force of good and a voice that can change people's lives on the local level, on a national level, on a global level, to help people to manifest their greatness.
What is one thing that many people don't know about Les Brown? I'm going to have an exclusive here.
One thing that most people don't know about me is that I'm a person that I've always been struggling with a tremendous level of inferiority, an inferiority complex, because I was labeled educable mentally retarded and called the dumb twin. And it takes me longer to learn something than most people. Most people don't know that that has been an ongoing struggle for me, overcoming that feeling of inferiority.
Are there any final words you would like to leave with our listeners today?
I'd like to leave this with the people that are listening to you right now, something that I've known by. If you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, to work day and night for it, to give up your time, your peace, and your sleep for it, if all that you dream and scheme is about it, and life seems useless and worthless without it, and if you gladly sweat for it and fret for it and plan for it, and lose all your terror of the opposition for it, and if you simply go after that thing that you want with all of your capacity, strength and sagacity, faith, hope, and confidence, and stern pertinacity, if neither cold, poverty, famish, or gulf, sickness or pain of body and brain can keep you away from the thing that you want, if dogged and grim you besiege and beset it, with the help of God, you'll get it. This has been Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy. It's been a plum pleasing pleasure as well as a privilege. God bless you. God bless your dream. You have something special. You've got greatness in you. That's my story, and I'll stick it to it.
Wow. So that was an interview that he and I did some time ago, but it's timeless. His message has always been timeless. You have greatness in you, you can live your dreams, and you got to be hungry. I hope that you have enjoyed today's session. Again, it wasn't my intent to keep you all afternoon, but I wanted to give you some hope and inspiration so that you can accomplish more in 2021. I wanted to share some of my friends and my relationships with you for you to hear some amazing stories to help inspire you to do more in 2021. Make sure you visit my website at tamarahartley.com. If you haven't liked my page, make sure you like that page because I have some special things coming up that will happen exclusively on that page. So I want to make sure you are a part of it. If you are looking for a coach, looking for some programs, please reach out. It is part of my purpose to help you live your purpose. That is what I do. I help bring things out of people. I help them take action and I help them make dreams reality. That is what I do, what I love doing. So if you are in need or looking for a coach and it's a good fit, definitely visit my website and let me see how I can work with you in 2021 and help you do some of the things that you would like to do. I appreciate all of you for hanging out with me. I appreciate everyone everyone who was a part of today's show and was willing to share their stories with you. I want to wish everyone a happy new year and a great rest of your afternoon. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you in 2021 and seeing what you have going on and what you're up to. Take care.